I still believe in podcasts, but now at least I know it's not some place you can look for, because it's not where you go. It's how you feel for a moment in your life when you're part of something. And if you find that moment, it lasts forever. Like 2 hours, 40 minutes, 320, something in that range.
Wait, what was that last thing you said?
I made a joke about our podcast being long. That's what I was trying to do.
He was ad-libbing.
Right.
He was ad-libbing.
I wanted to sub in Podcast for Paradise. That felt clean, but the line starts with it.
Emily was right. You do a good Leonardo DiCaprio circa 2000. Yeah, I knew she was right.
It's baby Leo trying to sound serious, which I would argue is his entire career, but we can get to that later.
But when does he shift from baby to big boy? Because I feel like the hit on everyone, the hit on Gangs of New York was that he's still baby. He's trying to be big boy, but he's still baby. Was it the Aviator and The Departed? Or are those just kind of using his babiness correctly?
David, your question is, when does it take? When do people finally accept it? Is that your question?
I think by Inception and Shutter Island, it has taken, and he's a bit different. Yes,
I'm gonna say I'm in the extreme minority that says he's still baby. Like
he's still baby.
He's still baby.
Well, I think his best performances still come from him leaning into baby. I think Departed for me is the first time. I think he's great in The Aviator, but it works because that role is partially baby. I think Departed
I'm Howard Hughes.
Right. I think Departed is the time where it kind of starts to cross over because that guy is trying so hard in the movie to prove that he's not baby.
Right. That movie begins with him being summoned into an office where Wahlberg and Sheen are like, so you're a baby, right? You're a big baby,
right?
And he's like, no, I'm not. And they're like, yeah,
I hear you're a fucking baby.
It's on this sheet. Yeah.
Gaga goo goo. Let me give you a milk bottle.
I just love, but for listeners cannot see right now that David's background is a moment from the beach where I would say he is especially baby, and to me is the greatest part of his performance in this movie. So I think when he leans into baby, it works.
Is it Donkey Kong Country? Is that the
Crash
filter we're
Bandicoot?
looking at?
I got a real Crash Bandicoot.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I believe Danny Boyle has said he was primarily influenced by Banjo-Kazooie. I think he has said...
Okay.
I mean, Banjo-Kazooie doesn't look like that, and Crash Bandicoot kind of does, but I won't mess with Danny's vision. I mean, maybe Danny said, hey, can you do like a Banjo-Kazooie thing? And the VFX guy was like, what's he fucking talking about? Banjo? I'm not looking that up.
Banjo-Kazooie, yeah. Is that some group he saw at Coachella?
God, he's high on goofballs again.
Coachella 97.
Oh man, Banjo-Kazooie did lay it down at Coachella. and they're coming back, right? They're
they're doing a big nostalgia tour now. It's a total cash grab.
Right,
their Coachella set was acoustic, which was kind of cool of them.
Yeah, Banjo-Kazooie unplugged.
Yeah.
It's just banjos, no Kazooie.
I think Kazooie's second solo record is actually interesting. I think there's like 5 good tracks on that. Yeah.
Yes.
What is your
Kazooie's
favorite?
kind of the George Harrison, where no one kind of like takes him seriously as a solo artist. But if you actually stack up,
yeah, exactly.
You're like, oh, there's like a lot of good songs and records there. Yeah.
Banjo-Kazooie. What is everybody's? And then introduce the podcast. I just want to do this right now, like a lightning round. What is everybody's favorite Leonardo DiCaprio performance? Just say it. Just say your favorite Leonardo DiCaprio performance.
Catch Me If You Can.
Oh, that's a good answer.
It's probably Romeo and Juliet because he's the most baby. And I don't like Leonardo DiCaprio. I think he's a bad actor.
Wow.
Leo, if you're listening to this is what I think of you, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Wow. I think he's a good actor personally.
Wow.
A lot of people think that. I that's a widely held opinion, but I don't like him. I think this movie kind of works despite of and because of, I think his I don't know what to call this performance exactly. It's not to me an ideal performance, but in a way it makes a second movie happen that is interesting to me. So But yeah, I would say when he's at his babiest and wettest in Romeo and Juliet, I like him.
This is a huge take coming out at the beginning of the episode. David, do you have a pick for your favorite?
My favorite has always been and probably always will be Shutter Island. I think that's his best performance ever.
Wow.
I love that movie so much. Ben, do you have a favorite Leo?
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably
That's
his
me.
best performance,
That's me
actually.
pointing at the movie.
Yeah, that is such a great performance. But no, Shutter Island is my favorite. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Just okay, we got the whole spectrum.
Look, we're
of
gonna
Leo
have
in there.
we're gonna have a great Leo debate.
No, actually, it's Don't Look Up. I take it back.
Oh, he's so funny in that.
Sorry. Yeah, I totally
funny.
forgot, but I love that movie.
Yeah.
How did you forget?
I don't know.
I'm
'Cause
thinking
it's-
about Don't Look Up every day.
It's a top of mind thing.
In fact, I'm never looking up as a result.
Right, and anytime you do, you're like, fuck, damn, shit, I forgot.
McKay, you got me again.
It's embarrassing, Ben, how much you forgot the extent to which you care about climate change.
Yeah,
and thus
I
by
know.
proxy, how funny you find that movie.
Yeah. Yep. It was a laugh.
Says
right.
a lot. Says
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
Says a lot.
Telling.
Look, obviously, this episode, now the gauntlet's been thrown. This episode's going to be a great Leo debate. Before we get into that, Emily, you mentioned David's background. Can you just say what my Zoom background is?
Your Zoom background is of the great actor Adam Beach.
The beach.
The what's his Slipknot himself.
This is Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
Yep. I'm David.
It's a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their careers and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. And sometimes those checks clear and sometimes they bounce. Baby.
Were
And
you
this-
doing that in Richard voice? That sounded very Richardy.
Which Richard?
She means Richard from the beach.
Leo and the beach.
Oh, a little bit, I guess. Now maybe I'm just in it. Maybe I'm just in
His famous character,
Yeah.
Richard.
I think you're just in it now, which is cool. You should stay there. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No.
the intro.
I've maybe I've gotten beach pilled. I've gone to the
You
beach
got
and I haven't come
kinda
back
beach
yet.
You're sandy.
pilled.
Yeah, I'm sandy. I'm sunburnt. I'm maybe the palest I've ever been right now. Listen, this is a miniseries on the films of Danny Boyle. Oh, Danny Boyle, the pipes are calling. It's called Train Spodcasting.
Yep.
Today we are talking about his second bounce in a row. Now you say,
Yeah, but his more profound bounce.
right.
You're
Right.
not losing.
Bigger scale
You're not.
bounce.
Yeah, because Lifeless Ordinary, that cost $10 million or whatever. You can get away with that. The beach, this is serious.
How many beaches did they destroy in a life
Yes.
less ordinary?
Yes. How many beaches have been permanently ruined by a lifeless order?
Well, yeah, it's a not zero sum in this movie, so that's something.
Not only that, but this is a rare case where a filmmaker is basically handed a lottery ticket.
Yes, but it's a lottery ticket that could explode.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
it's sort of It's a dangerous package you're being handed. here.
But at this moment, he must have been the envy of everyone in Hollywood. Leo has not made a movie for 2 years. He has not signed on to a film since Titanic came out. Right? Man in the Iron Mask comes out 2 months after Titanic. He's got a cameo in Celebrity that comes out the following year. But he has not
he
been
filmed
on screen.
both of those things pre Titanic,
exactly.
and he's not been on screen.
So not only is this the star of
Yep.
the highest grossing film of all time, but he is in and of himself a legit cultural phenomenon, his very existence. And everyone's waiting to see what he's going to do with that. He's got a blank check himself.
For a teenage girl who loves Leonardo DiCaprio, which I was not one, but I still feel like I can speak with some, informed experience about that. A year with that little Leonardo DiCaprio content when you're 16 is a long time.
Yeah.
You could really lose people.
Yeah. Right. Titanic, December 97. Man in the Iron Mask, February 98.
Yes.
And then basically this is 2 full years later.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
and that was
correct.
the peak of Leo mania.
The peak.
That was the
Yeah.
peak of it.
The peak.
And he was nowhere to be found. Crazy.
No.
Well, you
no.
can find him. If
You can
I
find
mean,
it.
Yeah, hit the streets.
he did have a posse. Yeah, you did have to check in with the
Well,
posse.
this is the number one
But,
thing we have to discuss in this episode. This is there's going to be a lot of posse talk in this episode because I think it's important to this film.
We could do a little posse talk.
You mean the insane clown posse? What are you guys talking
Yeah,
about?
we're talking
Yes.
ICP. Yeah.
Okay.
Leo was just pounding Fago.
Listen, today we're talking Dub Beach.
The beach.
The beach.
Our guest returned to the show after too long of a gap. I didn't realize how long.
A
it had
Leo
been.
like hiatus, I
A
would
Leo
say.
like hiatus.
The fans maybe forgot about me. The fans have grown up.
Wait,
the fans have lived
it
a
hasn't
1,000
been-
lives.
I guess it's been like a year and a half. Damn.
Was
What the
Dark Star
fuck?
the last one?
Dark Star.
Dark Star was the
Yeah.
last one.
Yeah, like a year and
Yeah.
a half. Yeah, it was a Leo.
Babies are walking now that we're not walking. Maybe even Boss Babies wasn't walking at that time and is walking now.
Oh,
So I'm just
I mean, Boss Baby was not walking at that time. No, she
Yeah.
was a lump, adorable
Yeah.
little lump.
That's kind of
Oh.
rude of you to say.
That she was a lump.
body
Yeah.
shaming.
Yeah,
Body
She's
shame
still
much.
my little lump. She's a
and
little lumpy.
you made that body. You're almost shaming yourself.
Nothing wrong with lumps. But yeah, now she's running. Obviously, running around like a maniac.
Emily Yoshida, mother of Blankies, the epic anticipated return.
Hi, everybody.
Time number.
I think we're on 12 now. 12? I don't know. It's counting bonus episodes or not. I think we're
The dozen.
I
if
think
we're
we're at the
talking
dirty
just
dozen
main
right
feed-
now.
If we're talking just main feed, and if we count Titanic as one,
Then this is 12.
this is the dozen.
And then I'll obviously you also did a Babe episode with us, which is basically a full episode
It was a full
which
episode.
in which
Yeah.
we love.
We all
Babe.
cried. We all
Yeah.
We
cried
did.
in that episode.
I love
remember?
Babe. Yeah,
I think I've
well,
cried
it was
now.
a tough time.
In 3 different blank check episodes. So
Wait, what are the
and
others?
it's gonna be a 4th time today, guys.
Wow. Wow. What are the other ones you cried during?
Yeah, when did you cry?
I
Marvin?
cried during I cried during the Castle in the Sky episode.
Wow.
Okay.
And then
That whole
maybe
miniseries was a tearjerker.
Yeah. Lasseter's introduction of the movie, right? That's when you cried when you did your dramatic reading of Lasseter's DVD introduction.
it's just from that point on, the waterworks start and they don't turn off. There's got to be did I cry during did I cry during the Speed Racer episode?
It's possible.
Well, no, it was the Keep. The Keep. I remember you were just really
The RPG?
moved by
The game, the RPG
game.
game. Right.
Yeah. So if you aren't subscribed to the Patreon already, go subscribe and listen to me cry while playing the Keep RPG tabletop game
Out of
with the
frustration.
boys. Not
You know, I
joy.
was the one crying out of frustration. There was only one frustrated dungeon master there.
Relevant to today's topic, recently, David Ehrlich, the great David Ehrlich, friend of the show, hosted a little weekend get together to play the official Titanic board game, the James Cameron's Titanic board game. And Marie and I played that with David and some of his other friends. I described it as less fun than doing taxes. It was the most. It truly. We spent 2 hours trying to read through the instructions, and then went like, maybe if we just start playing, it'll make more sense. And then it made less sense.
I can't believe you guys didn't record this. Sounds like gold.
I wasn't there. I decided to go on a date with my wife instead of doing that. Huge mistake by me, obviously.
Yeah.
I am really good at understanding the stupid rules of complicated board games, so maybe I could have helped, but maybe, some of these things are just bad.
This one was so annoying and complicated. And you're right, Emily. We should have recorded it. It would have made for a good episode. The problem is we can't recreate it because I, out of frustration, went and burned every single copy of the game that exists.
You put them all in a ditch somewhere.
I buried them like the fucking ET game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if that game was remotely good, people would know about it. If there was a
Sometime
good game based on that movie. People would play.
If you get the emulator of the not based on the movie, but the Titanic computer game, which I know I brought up on that episode, which is like my second most powerful touch point for Titanic.
Adventure Out of Time.
And do like a play along with that would rule. Adventure Out of Time. Oh my god.
I believe now you can just buy it on Steam for $6 if you want. I don't think you even really need an emulator. Like it just exists.
Is it on Switch?
Oh my god.
I'm not sure anyone's made the effort to port that sucker over to the Switch. But yeah, I'm looking at it. It's a lot of dialogue, right? A lot of like, hey, I see the wireless room. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you kind of choose your responses underneath it. But it is very dependent on how you respond to people. Like it's not linear at all. So it's pretty cool. It would be fun to play. I mean, speaking of things that we were all doing in the year 2000, I've been playing Final Fantasy VIII on the Switch right now, which I didn't realize was on there. And that's man, what a slow game.
Those games are boring.
Shut up.
I said it.
Wow.
Yes. Okay. The beach. Emily.
The beach. Emily, a question I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is your second Leo movie you've covered on the podcast now.
Sure.
Your second movie from peak Leomania Leo.
Yeah.
You come out of the gate swinging with the take that he is a bad actor and you don't like him at all. This movie is.
You hope he's listening.
Yes, and you hope he's listening, and you want him to cry. You said right before we started recording. You said I'm not going to cry on this fucking episode. It's time for him to cry. Listen,
it's time for him to cry.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope he puts on headphones, listens to this episode while having sex, and vaping and crying.
And then sends the WAV file to Ben, and he can just lay it in as a new track.
That's paywall. That's a paywall.
No, I was thinking of this last night while I was watching The Beach. I was like, these are, and I'm staying in a hotel right now, so I was watching Showtime, just watching Showtime on television as one does when you're around cable, like, which I never am anymore. And I saw I'm
confused. Do you mean Paramount Plus Showtime?
Yeah, I had to get the Paramount Plus add-on package on top of the Showtime add-on package on my Paramount Plus.
Apparently they don't exist independently anymore. Right,
yeah. But yeah, I was watching the last 10 minutes of that, so I got to see a little bit of the icy Leo. And then Leo at the very, very end of that movie, which I still I maintain is like one of the best endings of any movie, the final sequence of Titanic. And it's very much reliant on you being like, oh, I'm so happy to see Leonardo DiCaprio. And then I was watching this movie, which is just like, I think we can get into it. I have a lot of really complicated feelings about this performance, but I still think this is like a what's the word that's not problematic that we can use now that doesn't mean problematic? It's just like
tricky.
It's a fraught movie. But and including and because of this Leonardo DiCaprio performance, but it's still super compelling to me, and it was a reason why I requested it. I think I had a couple Boyle movies that I was interested in, but this was definitely one of them. So,
well, that was going to be my question. Are there any other Boyles? Where are you on Mr. Danny Boyle? Any other Boyles you love? Hate?
Well, this is the thing for Boyle. Like, I saw this in the theater. I really don't have a memory of my experience of seeing it in the theater. I think because it was disappointing to me. I think to me it felt kind of like the epitome of somebody that I like, and this was a still new experience for me at this time, kind of quote unquote selling out, and it feeling like a kind of big American-y misfire for somebody that, I was just like, oh, they're so cool and British and Ewan McGregor and all this shit. And then this movie notably doesn't have Ewan McGregor in it, was going to have Ewan McGregor in it.
We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about all that. Don't worry.
I mean, would this movie have worked better if Ewan McGregor was in it?
We're going to talk about it. But what Danny Boyle movies do you like?
Okay, so what I'm saying is I really, really liked Danny Boyle up to this. Like I saw this because of Danny Boyle when I saw it. Because I was a huge Ewan McGregor fan. And, got into those movies because of that.
You went to the box office and said, I just want you to know I'm not buying a ticket for Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm buying a ticket for Danny Boyle. I want to make it very clear to you.
Yeah. At the Coral Ridge Mall in Coralville, Iowa. I certainly did. I think I saw Man in the Iron Mask too there. I don't know. I just saw everything, you just see, this is also the age where you're just seeing everything. And then since then, I think, I think since then I'm just sort of totally okay. Like if he hits, he hits. If he misses, I don't really care. I think the last movie of his that I saw that I was really into and didn't see for a while because I was sure I was going to hate it, and then really liked it a lot, was Steve Jobs. And then what's the last one he did?
Yesterday.
Oh yeah. I'm not going to see. What am I going to do? See Yesterday? It's not. He's no longer an essential viewing director for me, but for like early in my watching movies and being into movies, he was. So yeah.
Did you do you have a strong Life Less Ordinary take? Because that's obviously the
I haven't seen that in a long time. But I saw that, like multiple times as a horny teen.
You saw multiple times. Wow. So you're
like probably at
love
least a
was
couple
that
times.
Strong.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I had it on VHS. I think like it was in a bargain bin for good reason at like the grocery store, and I got it because that's exactly what it is. And it's like, cool, I can own a Ewan McGregor performance on VHS that I can keep in my house. Absolutely, let's do it.
Like, I guess to be fair, it is like a very normal, watchable movie. Like it's a real easy, light.
Just pop it in.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, I would be interested to rewatch that again. I did rewatch Shallow Grave before I
saw you
like yesterday. Yeah, because I hadn't watched that in God knows how long. And enjoyed it. That movie's fun. That movie's a lot of fun. The music is so good that's the one consistent thing I think about Danny Boyle movies up to this point is amazing soundtracks.
And I think going forward, I think he pretty much always hits it on the music, be it soundtrack or if he's avoiding a soundtrack, like getting a good score. Like he's at least always consistent on that until yesterday, of course.
Yeah, the songs in Yesterday suck.
They suck.
Famously uncatchy. I don't think that there is a director that you guys have covered though that is where the soundtrack with music from other artists, like not the original score, is such a big part of their identity, at least at the outset. Because I mean, there was something that was that was like the Danny Boyle brand was like, and you get to like buy the CD that has, for me at the time, I was like all this like cool dance music and British shit that you've never heard of before. And it was, it felt like a kind of gateway to stuff. And who are you like?
We haven't covered Tarantino or Wes Anderson or Scorsese, who are like, I feel like the three other big record drop auteurs, needle drop auteurs,
Yeah, we haven't covered the OC season 1.
No.
Oh, but Boz. When you guys do Boz, that'll be
Boz,
big.
Sure.
Boz, sure.
And I said when you do Boz.
We do Braff. I feel like Garden State, that was a big soundtrack.
Huge. Well, he sent it out with the script because he thought people wouldn't understand it if they weren't listening along.
We did do a commentary on a movie with a great soundtrack. You might have heard of it. It's called Koyaanisqatsi. Pretty banging soundtrack.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Philip Glass. It's his 86th birthday today, actually.
Today?
Wow.
On the day we're recording?
Today. Yes, on the day we're recording. But I do think I was listening to the Beach soundtrack yesterday, by the way, having a great time.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it rules so hard. Like if there's anything you can say unimpeachably about this movie is that the soundtrack still fucking rips. It's so good.
I've been listening to Porcelain a lot today since I watched the movie.
Hell yeah. I love that album. Is Moby, are we back in on Moby?
Play?
Yeah, play.
I have been sort of seeding it. I'm like, can
is
we,
Moby
can
good
we?
again?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or is he canceled? I can't remember. What did he do?
Well, I mean, he was
yeah.
like weird about Natalie Portman, famously, like super weird.
I think she was barely 18, but it wasn't that he was like, we had a relationship, and she was like, we just did not, and I don't know what that man is talking about.
It's not that there was any actual behavior that was uncomfortable. It's that he had a whole fantasy that had no relation to which is creepy in its own way. But yeah, I think that was like the main thing.
He got a bunch of face tattoos as well. Did he not?
Did he?
I was looking him up when I was.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Huh.
He's got vegan for life on his neck, but he also has like things.
He has a cross with LRSC, which stands for love, reason, service, and compassion.
Okay.
Yeah.
That also sounds like a licensing for a therapist, like LRMC, like Love Angel Music.
I remember
Baby. I don't know.
I remember his crib so well. Remember his weird little crib?
Oh my God. Wait, did you see the arm tattoos?
Yeah, he's got animal on one arm and rights on the other arm.
But it's like,
oh no,
it's like Helvetica font. It's
Helvetica
so bad.
running straight down from like bicep to fist.
But like, you just don't want to have the thing where you're like, this, you have a bad thing and then another tattoo that says is wrong, but then people only see the one half. Anyway, Moby, great soundtrack on the beach.
Yeah, I was gonna say is that I have sort of been dipping my toe into like, can we play Moby in polite company again? Because and this is sort of a sideways way to get into it. So I started playing the soundtrack. The soundtrack went in heavy rotation again for me a couple years ago when I was working on the still not yet made but currently still in development TV adaptation of The Beach with Alex Garland. And
so we can talk about this.
I can mention it. I'm not going to get into like what Great. I mean, obviously I'm not going to get into what we wrote. I have no, and I genuinely don't know anything about the status of that project. But I did spend a long time writing and thinking about The Beach and playing The Beach soundtrack a lot, and just, and occasionally being in the car with friends being like, that was good, right? That was good. So yeah.
Yeah. I like Moby. It's music. And I've been bumping it in my ears as well.
Bring, bring.
Yes?
But you got to pick up the phone. You can't just say yes, David.
But no, I was just saying yes to us in a separate conversation. Sorry. Click. Hello? What's going on?
Hello.
Uh-huh. Hello.
It's been a while since we've spoken, David.
Okay. And who are you?
Your gut.
Oh, my goodness. It's my gut.
I'm asking you to trust
Sorry. Me. Gut. This is just for the last 30-odd years.
Yeah, I know. You really put me through the ringer.
Yeah, that's why you sound like Peter Lorre, apparently.
I do. I don't. I also sound a little bit like Watto, maybe.
And maybe a little like Ren.
Yeah, you idiot.
I mean, my gut definitely does call me an idiot when I, whatever.
David, you are an idiot.
Get a cheeseburger and eat it on the go. Yes, what's up, gut?
I'm saying you're putting me through the ringer on a daily basis.
Uh-huh.
You keep on feeding me all this junk. I feel terrible. I could use some help.
Okay. You need like some talent, maybe.
Top talent.
Ah, you need Indeed.
Okay, go on.
It's the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place.
Mm-hmm.
You don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with all the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed, right? So yes, of course, we all like to trust our guts.
Well, you say that, but I feel like you're rarely showing it.
But with Indeed, you can also find top talent fast using stuff like Instant Match and virtual interviews and assessments, because Indeed's US data shows that 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job.
Yeah, I maybe need like a plumber. If we can find like an intestinal plumber or something.
Look, it makes hiring all in one place so easy because something like Instant Match, you can invite candidates to apply through Instant Match. They're 3 times more likely to apply to your job than the candidates who only see it in search. That's according to US Indeed data. So as soon as you sponsor a post there, you're going to get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. You can invite them to apply right away, and you don't have to just listen to your gut.
Like Wendy's, like 4 times a week. You couldn't scale it down to 3.
Come on, I have it at 2.
David, why are you talking to your stomach?
It's talking to me. And look,
Does your stomach have a phone? How is that stomach calling you? I'm asking you to explain this logic.
Yeah, I need to explain this. Well, listen, I can't because right now I have to explain that Indeed does the hard work for you. You sponsor a job, boom, Instant Match shows you candidates whose resumes match your job description immediately after your post. You can start hiring fast. So join the over 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/check to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/check, Indeed.com/check. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire, you need Indeed. All right, Gutty?
Oh, Gutty, that's a good name.
Emily, you were writing on the proposed Beach TV adaptation that Alex Garland and Amy Seimetz were doing.
Yeah.
That much like all of TV now seems to be in a state of flux. Much like every single series, be it completed, have it already been released. The Sopranos might be canceled tomorrow.
What kind of world are we living in? No, I mean, the nice thing about COVID was that, if you were lucky, of course, you could theoretically still have work as a TV writer. The downside of it is that there's maybe a 5% chance that the things you wrote in COVID would get made because everybody was just generating scripts. So then people kind of went back into production. We're like, well, we're not going to do that. Or I think people just lose interest or blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying that any of those were the things that happened with the beach. I think it's still kind of alive in some way there. But we had like a room with it, and it was sort of the second attempt at it after the Seimetz version. So that was, I mean, I was in a room with Alex and a few other writers for like 5 months. And
okay, so the Seimetz version then gave way to a version that Garland was leading himself, and that was the one that you were involved in.
Yeah.
So you had you read the book before seeing the movie / had you read the book before getting hired to work on the show?
No, I'd never read the book. I read the book for the show. I'd seen the movie and I knew that people really liked the book, but it wasn't a part of my formative reading as a teen or 20-something, which it was for so many people. So
you didn't grow up in London. There, you weren't part of a youth culture in a country.
Oh my
where
God!
maybe this
Be
book
careful.
Was
Look,
more.
should
You're
I say
in
it or
danger
not?
zone.
I read this book. Like every other British teenager.
And I accept that.
Of course,
of
I read
course,
The Beach.
I knew that, and I was waiting for you to say it because I knew that. I held the knowledge, and I have nothing funny to say about it.
My cover, I think the first edition cover of the novel is so good. That weird kind of like clip art.
Yeah,
with beach with the daffy. But mine was the much more boring. It's like a beach, but then it actually is. There's an eye. A guy's face is the beach. I don't know. That was my cover. But I did read The Beach. We all read The Beach. I think this is clear in the dossier, Griff. I don't know if you saw this, but like that, the book was a colossal success in Britain and a sort of minor success in America.
Sort of the shallow grave of books.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What's
your question, Griffin?
No, my neighbor across the street is fully naked. This is a rare. I don't think
cool.
I've seen this. He's
Swing the camera around.
Friend's full naked guy in the window across from me. He's standing at an angle where he can't see that I can see him, but now he's moving around.
Is this like a new recurring character for our show?
Well, no, I'm going to say I don't want to set up any recurring characters that only exist in Zoom records. So
I would agree with that.
Let's commit to the idea that he will never appear ever again.
Love that.
What I was going to say, God, I just remembered I was going to say it was a terrible joke, and it got distracted by a naked guy, and now I have nothing to reset back to.
No, go to the joke.
I was going to try to
Do the
make some
joke.
fucking... I wasn't even sure. I didn't even land it on how to make the joke. I was going to make some joke about it being a beach read.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was going to try to make some fucking joke about the book, The Beach, being a beach read. I don't know. This guy fucking... His pubes threw me off.
Good for him.
All right, tell
bush out. Yes.
David, tell how old were you when you read this, and were you did you
13.
backpack? Okay.
I backpack? I've only ever backpacked in Europe. I've never been to Asia, and I've never done this sort of thing, right? But
you've never found a secret island where there's a sort of
no, I've done that. You can do that anywhere. No, I've never
intentional
done anything
community.
But and I've never had backpacking. Not my vibe. I want to be very comfortable. I love to be comfortable.
You're more of a
It's
messenger
great to
bag
be
guy.
comfortable.
Yeah.
But I did read this book in 1999 because every boy in my school read this book. Not everybody, but like lots of the word would spread of how gnarly the book was. It was like, oh, you have to read The Beach. There's this scene where, it's like we were all, I guess, sort of the allure of substances and danger and weed farmers and guns and like just the darkness of the book was what we were into. And then I was actually scared to see the movie for this reason, because I thought it would be as gnarly as the book. It is not nearly as gnarly as the book. Probably, somewhat understandably. Just because it would be tough. Well, we can, but I did read The Beach at the time. And I have never read Alex's other books. I never read The Tesseract or The Coma, but I did whatever. I mean, I like Alex Garland. I mean, Emily, you worked with him. I interviewed him once, and he was the saddest sack I ever interviewed. Not in a bad way at all. But he was just so like, no one's gonna like this.
Was this for Annihilation?
It was.
This
was
no.
for
This
men.
is for men. From which
interesting.
he wasn't like. I watched a very very early cut of that as well, and he was like, exactly like he was just like, I know everybody's gonna hate this, which whatever. I mean, you got to make a movie in COVID, like
Also,
he was actually shooting that while we were in the room, which made for a really peaceful, normal working process. So, yeah.
am I correct in believing that Men was a situation where like that was an older script he had in his drawer, and people came to him and they were like, "Do you have anything that is contained that you could shoot during COVID?"
No, I don't think so. That he pushed back very strongly against the idea that it was a COVID movie. When I floated that to him.
Yeah.
It was an old script or whatever. It was a script he'd long been working on, but I think he has a lot of those, right? He's got a lot of sort of,
I love Alex so much. He is a big old grump, but I like big old grumps, and he was like a very 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 cool person to work with. And I think, I was trying to think back to stuff that we had talked about when we were, because it was just sort of weird. Like we were doing this adaptation of a book that he wrote when he was in his 20s. And so he's going back and revisiting this material with, with an adult, an older adult's eye, and also just like what that scene is, what the tourism industry, what the backpacker scene is now there is also changed a lot. And he shockingly, he's super cynical about it. But it was I just think that that's an interesting process to go through of like, okay, if you could imagine trying to like rework something that you wrote at such a different point in your life, like
Well, it's also crazy that, like, here's this guy who makes this novel that's a big generational cultural thing. It gets adapted into a movie that's seen as a disappointment, but it starts his relationship with the guy who he then makes two movies with. Like, this is sort of an odd handoff movie between the Hodge era of Boyle and the Garland era of Boyle, which then leads to Garland being more of a film guy, a film and TV guy, you know?
Yeah, it is so interesting that Garland did not write this screenplay.
Yeah.
But then takes the baton and writes, well, 2 screenplays, right, for Boyle, right? He writes 28 Days Later and Sunshine. I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess after that, he's off to making his own movies pretty much. Like, but yeah, it's a funny sort of, and then Hodge doesn't write for Boyle again
until T2?
T2, right? Yeah.
But this is, I mean, it's why, you know.
Oh, no, he wrote Trance. Sorry, I always forget he wrote Trance.
Well, I think he forgot he wrote Trance, too.
Mm-hmm.
I think he forgot to write Trance, is what I meant to say. No, it's just, you know, we'll dig into this shortly, I'm sure, but the whole McGregor of this movie, he has talked about in recent years where he's like, it wasn't about the beach. It's not that I was so offended by the fact that I didn't get to do the beach. It's that I really thought like the 4 of us were in this together, that it felt like it was Boyle, McDonald, Hodge, McGregor are going to be a team forever.
And it feels, I mean, those sorts of, you know, that kind of clique that you form early on with people that you like come up with is destined to come apart at some point or another. I think it would hurt to be like the only person.
Like, say, a pussy posse. Like, if you in your 20s form a pussy posse with some other.
Say some sort of pussy posse.
Pussy aficionados.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that obviously must have been a big bummer.
Yeah, it's just funny that like they have their falling out over not doing this movie together, but then also Hodge and Boyle kind of like drift away.
They do, and I wonder. I mean, after this movie, it was clear. I'm sure it's obvious that Boyle, and we'll talk about it next time, but like perceived the need for a big reboot for himself, right? Like,
yes.
I can't keep doing these sort of cutting edge of cool movies about Gen Xers in their 20s, fucking, right? Like,
he drops the house style, he drops the sort of the thematic interests and starts moving around in different directions. Yeah.
No more Helvetica.
Tell that to Moby.
Yeah, no more. Look, if this movie comes out, let's just put this movie, and then I'll crack open the dossier because we have to talk about all of that drama and everything else. But if you put this movie in Ewan McGregor's career, right, just plop it in and assume no other changes, then it's basically just like in 99 he does Star Wars, in 2000 he does The Beach, in 2001 he does Moulin Rouge and Black Hawk Down. Like, it probably would just have been a net positive for him. There obviously would have been a lot less hype around the movie. It would not have had the sort of massive weight of expectation on it. So yeah, it probably wouldn't have been a problem.
I think it would make him cooler. I think it would have an effect of him getting to be cooler for longer. Obviously, he's very cool in Trainspotting. He's very cool in Velvet Goldmine. But like those are, still kind of cult films at the time. But if he got to be in like a film the size of The Beach in that kind of sexy role, I think that maybe he doesn't do Down with Love and then has a completely different career trajectory. Because I do think that like Down with Love, well, I don't know, for him feels like a turning point.
Well, I think
that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah,
Moulin Rouge gives him Down with Love, which that he's in Down with Love because of Moulin Rouge. Like, that could still happen.
Yeah.
You're the pretty boy angel face. Like,
those are both Fox movies. Yeah. And I think they're both trying to capitalize on this guy being one of the leads of Star Wars. Like, it's this rare thing of not just, he booked a huge movie, but it's like one of the biggest movies of all time in terms of anticipation. And it's
one
also
of the only roles that we know the character beforehand,
Yes.
Like,
right. So from the announcement, it's humongous. And you're also guaranteed that he's going to be one of the leads of all 3 movies.
Yeah.
It's just a huge ass deal.
And Lil Emily Yoshida in Iowa sees him on the cover of Premiere magazine and is like, "Oh, it's my husband. I'm going to go watch Velvet Goldmine now."
Hell yeah.
As one does. Yeah, no, I don't want to make this a Ewan McGregor podcast when he's not even in this movie. His ghost obviously looms large over it. But I just, before you get into the dossier, I just wanted to pick a bone about, comments that Griffin may or may not have made.
Oh boy, yeah.
About Ewan McGregor's attractiveness.
Marie also yelled at me about this. She said she spit out her salsa.
And that was expensive salsa. Okay.
Yeah.
That hurts
might be
too
billing
if it
you
comes
for
out
that.
your nose. Like
It does. Yeah. I said that I thought he was not conventionally attractive. He was kind of goofy handsome.
Drag him.
Wait, are you talking about me drag
Should I get my
Griffin
bell?
or Griffin dragging
Ding, ding.
Ewan?
Both.
I didn't think I was dragging him.
It's a train. It's a train.
First of all,
dragging.
this was set in the framework of when I was young, I could not see physical attractiveness in men who didn't look like Ken dolls. Anyone who wasn't like super cartoonishly like defined features. And I
Sure.
do think he's got kind of like a goofy smile and a big nose and whatever. And it was me talking about in that episode how insane it is that I didn't used to understand women finding him attractive, which I now do. And I was trying to justify why through the eyes of a fucking 10-year-old or 12-year-old I wouldn't get that.
It's why, I mean, this is why we need a bunch of different perspectives on a podcast, It's just different lived experiences because, well, I've told you my lived experience vis-a-vis Ewan McGregor, but yeah.
Look,
His
his
eyes are too big and dreamy. And I understand it's goofy looking that he's that attractive.
It is one of the most heterosexual things I have ever said on this podcast. It is disgusting.
Now you're gonna do like a Try Guys apology. You're gonna like look at the floor and be like, "It's fucked up." I mean, I shouldn't have done
fucked
it.
up.
Like,
It's fucked up. Yeah. No, when I started doing stand up, and the only people who liked me in the comedy scene were gay male stand ups, basically, and they sort of like took me into their scene. I was hanging out with them a lot, and it felt like they were always like, "Is he gay?" And he's sort of like testing this. Is he sort of like one foot in, 1 foot out on this? And I remember one night being with one of these gay stand-ups who had sort of taken me under his wing, and he was trying to get me to say like, but like if you had to fuck like one guy, who was the one guy you would fuck? Like what celebrity would you fuck? And my answer was Paul Rudd, and he sat back and he went, "Oh wow, you are straight."
That's so funny. Oh my god.
that is so funny.
He was like, "That's the straightest
he's like,
answer you
"Shit."
possibly."
He was like doing like a Voight Kampf test on you, and you
Yes.
said Paul Rudd, and he's like, "Yeah, that you
Yep.
couldn't be lying." Yeah,
He was like,
okay,
"Fuck,
all right.
oh god." So there's no chance here. I have no in.
The conversation's over. Right,
It's
yeah,
over.
Yeah.
And the McGregor moment felt similar to me. We recorded that in an episode with Charles and David, and neither of them called me out in the moment. And then now every woman who has listened to the episode has attacked me. And they're right to do so, and I deserve to be dragged, and this is a moment for me to step back and listen.
Right. Step back and take stock, and you'll be making a donation to the Hot Boy charity or whatever.
I'll just be paying Ewan McGregor.
Hot Boy Access Fund.
This is society, exactly. The Society for Hot Boys. Wait a second. This doesn't sound good at all.
I'll
Wait,
rank
I'm out.
Young Adam twice and
Yeah, the
flip.
Hot
good
Boy
movie.
Access Hotline.
Yeah.
Young Adam that's Ewan McGregor being like, "Can I make a Danny Boyle movie, please?" Oh fuck, we're not friends anymore. Like I do feel like that's him
Yes.
being like, "Can I get back there?" Anyway.
Yes.
Let me read you the dossier a little
Please.
bit. As Emily mentioned, the Beach novel comes out in 96. Alex Garland was only 26 years old when it came out.
Dumb.
And it gets in the hands of Danny Boyle, who is working on the post-production of A Life Less Ordinary. And he is immediately like, he feels the same way about it that he felt about the Trainspotting book, right? He
Mhm.
like calls Andrew McDonald. Let's meet this guy right away.
Mm-hmm.
And the book was a huge hit in Britain very quickly, and Garland, which is funny, like said initially he was like, I don't know, I kind of want like Steven Spielberg to make it. Like he admits that he was like in a complete like pipe dream world.
Sure.
But then, they sold it to Figment, which is Boyle's company. And Fox, who made A Life Less Ordinary, even though that movie flopped, is still basically like, we want to be in the Danny Boyle business. And
there's probably a little bit of a, okay, Danny, you got that out of your system. Now are you ready to like play the game?
Right. The other interesting thing is that Boyle and McDonald had bought the rights to the beach themselves using their own salaries from A Life Less Ordinary. So they actually had more creative control than, say, if Fox owned the book and was like, we're going to bring you aboard.
Sure.
Yeah. And so what do Andrew, John Hodge, and Danny Boyle decide to do? They start backpacking all around to try and get into the mindset, I guess. And did you guys know this, that they did this?
Yeah.
This is
it's unsurprising, but yeah, I didn't know that.
When they found out Princess Diana died in 1997, they were backpacking. He describes everyone getting phone calls at the same time, essentially, which is kind of cool. The big change John Hodge made, obviously, we sort of discussed this already, is that the ending, which is much darker and more bloody. How can you describe it?
Are we going to talk about?
ending,
Can we
right?
spoil the? Oh, did they shoot it? I don't.
I was reading that the DVD has the alternate ending, and
Oh.
and a
Really?
Danny Boyle commentary explaining it had multiple deleted scenes. I mean, where was
there's a scene where Sal kills herself.
Yeah.
She turns the gun on herself, but it's not like
that's not quite what the book ending is?
The ending of the book is basically like the gunmen show up, they throw the bodies of the dead, tourists down, and everyone's already going crazy because Richard has like spiked their feast with drugs.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to escape. And they all go fucking insane and start like tearing the bodies to pieces. Like it's very Lord of the Flies.
I think that the escape group is like Keedy, who's like the black guy who likes cricket
Patterson
in
Joseph,
the movie.
yeah.
And then who else? I think Francoise is the other. Like it's a trio. It's
Yes.
like, but it's not Etienne and Francoise. It's like it's Keedy and maybe one other person. I can't remember now. But
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's their escape plan, is that they are trying to get off the island, and they just like spike the feast with weed, and then there's this total massacre, and then they leave. And like the interesting sorry about my dog. The interesting the like key difference to me, aside from the like gory violent frenzy part of it, is that like they don't talk to each other after it. Like that's sort of the last part of the book, is him saying like, this was such an insane experience. We will never talk about it or see each other again. Like we just cannot acknowledge it. And he says like, I don't know if Sal's alive or dead, but I really hope, I hope I never have to see her again. It's just like, and it's treated much more, the whole thing is treated as like a huge traumatic incident rather than like, that was fun until everybody died type thing.
Waiting 20 minutes for a photo to load at an internet cafe that says never forget. It's a picture of them having the best time of their lives.
The ending, the final, that is, it lands with a real thud. We can talk about it later, in my opinion, at least in the movie.
It's crazy.
The internet.
Did
cafe
anybody
scene.
buy that at the time? Like, would any? Like,
I don't know. My wife was laughing. She did not like that ending. She was like, wait a second. But anyway, Garland says, I love bloody, bleak, apocalyptic endings. Basically, he's like, I didn't want there to be any redemption in particular. Boyle's response is, I think our ending is superior to the book. It's an amazing book. It's a modern parable, but it depends on this Lord of the Flies denouement, this terrible primitivism. But this is a sophisticated society they've built up. He just did not like the idea of them just turning into like violent animals at the end of the movie. Okay. I get that would be hard to pull off. Like,
It is funny that
switch.
Garland has succeeded in ending all three of the movies he directed basically that way, though. The equivalent for those
bloody
stories.
massacres.
Right. And look, we'll get to it, but that's everyone's complaint about Sunshine, for the people who have the complaints about it, is that it veers into an Alex Garland sort of tonal genre shift final act.
I love it though.
That is Bloody Apocalypse. Yeah.
Yeah. Sunshine Rules, the ending is good.
Yeah, the whole movie's good. 5 out of 5 masterpiece.
Agree. So now the big thing obviously is it's kind of a Watergate-esque who knew what when on whether or not Ewan McGregor was ever offered the role, when did they switch and who made the switch?
Was it an assumption?
It Fox or was it Boyle?
Right.
Yes. What's the deal? Because obviously they had given, I think, the book to Ewan McGregor. Maybe, it's not like they had never mentioned this to him. They gave him a copy of the book, and Boyle's recollection, as he says it, is that they essentially realized we're going to need a lot of money to make this movie. We're going to have to go to Thailand. We're going to need huge cast and crew, like $30+ million. I think the movie ends up costing more like 50, right?
Well, because someone's salary is $20 million. Right. I think that's the difference between the early number and the final number.
And obviously, Ewan has not made Star Wars yet. He is not an A-list movie star. And so, that's why they make that decision, is really budgetary. And everyone kind of talks around it, even in recollection. You know what I mean? Like, no one just sort of says, like, we had a meeting with a Fox honcho who was like, Ewan McGregor can't be the star of this movie. Like, but that does kind of feel like what happened, right? Like that someone was just sort of sitting with them and was like, you need a movie star if you want to make something this big.
Well, yeah. I mean, a couple other things going on. I mean, Emily and David, the two of you were saying, like, how does it affect Ewan McGregor's career if he does this movie in the middle of that run, right? And the problem is, like, Life Less Ordinary has bombed. It has made, like, no impact at the box office, and critics didn't like it, right? So there's already that thing of, like, oh, fuck, are they not going to be able to translate their thing to the American studio system? This movie, as this story reveals, was never going to be able to be made on a reasonable budget, right? No matter what, it was going to end up costing $30 million, which is a big step up from the budgets he had been working with. And I think the version of it with Ewan McGregor probably makes $10 million. I think
it's maybe 20. It's a similarly niche thing.
Right. For how off-putting this movie is, the only reason it was even vaguely profitable was just because of Leomania.
Yeah.
And there being a dearth in the marketplace of anything where people could see him.
Yeah, and it was like a hot book, but it wasn't a hot book here. So it's like, you'd have another thing that would be bigger in the UK than it was here, and and make that kind of money.
Yes. It's so double-edged. All your success and hype comes from Leo, but then all the pressure and snarkiness comes from having him in the movie, obviously. Some movie had to take this bullet. Some movie had to be like Leo's follow-up. And this is what it was. And it just it's completely obliterated by that, for better or worse.
And so I don't think there would have been that same pressure on this movie if it were Ewan, but it also would have been big enough, 2 flops in a row for Ewan and Boyle together. Even having Star Wars, I think people would have gone like, this guy's prospects as a leading man might be limited. He might not do the run of Big Fish and Down with Love and Moulin Rouge if this movie bombs with him in the lead.
Yeah,
whether that means he goes back to doing more UK indie stuff, is that better or worse? Different question. But the whole thing circling this is that, like, Leo is being very tentative in committing to his post-Titanic thing. He's got the world by the balls, but there's also this whole thing of, like, his dad being his sort of mentor figure who's guiding his career, and that he from a very young age is like, I don't want to be a flash in the pan. I want to build a career like De Niro, and the thing he's so close to doing is American Psycho, which would have been fascinating as an even more extreme test of, like, how can you punish the young girls who are desperate to see heartthrob Leo?
I mean, I think that movie is so much worse with him in it.
Agreed.
And I like Leo.
Yes.
But it's interesting to think about without, obviously. What tanks that is that he wants $20 million.
In a way, this is his. I literally thought of American Psycho though as I was rewatching this last night in terms of like unintentionally, but movies where you're just introduced to a lead character and you're like, this guy sucks, and like this entire thing is gonna kind of feel like a satire around this guy sucking, and like his sort of very willfully ignorant naivety about adventure or being like a rebel or whatever is very kind of a version of the uppy aspirations in American Psycho. And like it kind of works. I don't think he would be bad in American Psycho, but I think this is like maybe a better use of his vibe.
Everyone in this movie spends the whole time being like, what is this guy good for exactly? Like,
right.
What are you bringing to the table, buddy?
But
which is
until
funny.
He tells us his shark story, and then everybody's like, we love this. This is amazing.
But it is the whole thing. I mean, he clearly was in this place where he desperately wanted to kill baby Leo, right? Like,
of course,
he's in that, knowing how much he revered those 70s guys and studied their careers. Someone was relaying this story the other day of him like goofing around and like, being a party boy when they were filming This Boy's Life. And there was a point where De Niro and Ellen Barkin pulled him aside and said, like, look, if you want to have a serious career and you have the talent and you have the ability, but you want to have the kind of movie career that we had, you need to get serious and just start taking this as a job. And Leo's response was apparently some version of like, the kind of career we had. Let me take stock quickly. Okay, you have been in Raging Bull, Goodfellas, Mean Streets, and you have been in Switch, the movie where you and Jimmy Smits like switch bodies, the Blake Edwards comic. It was like just slamming on Ellen Barkin, right? It was like Little Mr. Hotshot, where he's like, I don't want your career, I want De Niro's career. That's the one I want, And like, you think about Dustin Hoffman in his postgraduate phase, where he's like now the kind of like glib young man, face of a generation. And then he's like, cool, I'm going to do Midnight Cowboy. I'm going to do Straw Dogs. I want to kill like cutesy Dustin Hoffman. I think Leo wants to kill baby Leo. And everything he's considering doing at this point is something that's going to blow up and sort of turn off the audience that he kind of resents, that he would like to shake off and develop a new audience for. And American Psycho, weirdly, is so much more arch and the characters so much more extreme that I think it would have done it less successfully. Even if the movie would have been worse, people would have accepted it as like, well, he's playing this character that's like so unlike him. Versus in The Beach, there's this weird quality to watching this and being like, this feels pretty similar to the way people talk about Leo hitting the New York nightclubs in the 90s. Like the energy of him just coming in and like starting shit and being Mr. like hot shit,
Yeah. And you can you can feel him trying to kill baby Leo in the performance because Richard is trying to kill baby Richard and whoever baby Richard was.
Which is why I like this.
I know,
like,
that's the way it works. Even though I find
right.
him so annoying. I find him, and I think it's a big problem that he is so unlikable in this. But I like it. He's unlikable in a movie where I think, are supposed to like him.
I don't know if we're supposed to like him. I just don't know.
Well, in the book, you definitely. I mean, the book, it's on the, it kind of, it's, up for debate, I think. But I feel like in the movie, especially the way it ends, that kind of gives it away, and that we were supposed to like be rooting for him.
Well, look, the Ewan of it all, again, Boyle has made 3 films about 3 very unlikable protagonists played by Ewan McGregor, and you like them every time. So yes, he is good usually at translating that. and he
God,
probably doesn't do as good a job here.
Well, also he would be using his American accent in
Great.
this? Because
Well, I think
no
that
way.
was the big
That would
shift was to
suck.
make the character
Right, no.
American, right? Yeah.
Yeah. There's no
Yeah.
way, because he's supposed to be an analog for Garland, right? Garland said
he's young.
this is
Garland.
based on rumors he heard when he was backpacking in the Philippines and stuff. That people were like, oh, there's like a magic beach community, and he never found it, or did he?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the upshot is that Ewan and Danny do not speak for many years, which is sad. We will bid goodbye to Ewan McGregor now on this miniseries until Trainspotting 2. Ewan has said it was a waste, right? Like he's expressed a lot of regret over it. But at the same time, maybe it was good for both of them, especially Danny Boyle, to just do different things. I don't know. Maybe they needed to break up. Like it's tough.
David, not to get all parental with
love
you,
to do it.
who is a parent.
Mm-hmm. Who is a parent.
You, who is a parent, must now listen to me, the non-parent, as
Get
I get
parental.
parental to you.
Okay.
It's time we had to talk, David.
Okay. Birds and bees.
Nope. The one about that 3-letter word that ends in X.
Okay. I see
Probably
where you're going
experienced
here.
this type of talk, this subject a few times in your life. Get that naughty thought out of your head. It's not that one.
What?
I'm talking about the word tux.
Oh.
When you need a tux, the best place to go get one is the black tux.
When I was young, when I was like 18,
Okay, go off, King.
I thought that like when you became an adult, you had to buy a tuxedo because like in the movies, you're always like wearing a tuxedo to go to the fancy events.
You should need to.
And then I realized, no, you just rent a tux by and large. Unless
But I'll
James
say
Bond.
this. I'll say this, David. The black tux makes it super easy to get, on trend, top quality, guaranteed to fit tuxes without ever leaving your house. Here's how it works. You take the black tux fit quiz, pick the style you want to rock, and boom, your tux is delivered to your door 10 days before the day you need it. That's plenty of time to try it on, make sure it wears you well. And hey, if the fit's not quite right, say hello to the black tux fit guarantee. David,
Okay.
say hello.
Hello.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Order a better size within a day or two of receiving the less than great fitting one, and they'll send another one right away at no extra cost. And if you prefer an in-store experience, Black Tux has showrooms across the country.
They sure do.
Their expert fit specialists will help you find the perfect style suit or tux to make sure it fits just right. And David, here's the spot where they ask for personal endorsement.
You have one, I
can
believe.
throw it out because my buddy Andrew Taven,
Yep.
he of the former Awooga Comedy Hour.
That's right.
He had his wedding last summer.
He sure did.
All the groomsmen were sent a link to the black tux. I went to their in-person showroom. They sized me up.
Mm-hmm.
They sent me that tux. And David, the tux was so nice. I chose not to rent it. I chose to keep it.
Oh, you kept a tux.
Pretty affordable. Just keep the tux. So if you have a good experience with it, I went, this thing fits me so well. Why not pay the extra couple $100s?
I love it.
Maybe $100, $200 extra to just hold on to this forever.
Now you're a tuxedo boy.
Now I'm a tuxedo boy. Now I got a nice tuxedo.
Rent or buy.
Mm-hmm. You got the options.
The Black Tux is the best place to go when you need a tuxedo for a wedding or special night.
Yeah. If you're the one organizing the event, it's very easy to make sure that all your groomsmen match. And if you're the one who has to be part of the event, it makes the guesswork out of here. It takes the guesswork out of here. The guesswork is out of here.
Okay. And
David, the guesswork?
I'm doing the call to action. And
Say goodbye.
And right now,
Yeah.
when you go to theblacktux.com/check and use code check, you'll save 10%. That's THEBLACKTUX.com/check, code check to save 10%. Theblacktux.com/check, code check.
Out of here.
Out of here.
Leonardo DiCaprio, obviously, is in the middle of Leomania. He can't fucking go outside without people chasing him, right? It really was that. There's that photo where he's like surrounded by a crowd and he looks like he wants to die.
Yes.
Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No.
It's like a famous press photo. I can probably find it, but like it just kind of summing up like how insane the post-Titanic, experience was for him.
I mean, I was trying to for listeners of the show who are younger and did not live through this or were not old enough to have memories of this, Pattinson was like briefly the only thing that even came close to this, right? In terms of like a guy in a movie, and specifically like his performance in that movie, the ideal of what the character represents, especially Romeo and Juliet and Titanic back to back, right? Just became like a rock star level thing. Not just, oh, here's an actor that people have crushes on, but that he like became like this mythical figure. And then that's added to the whole thing of like you're constantly hearing stories about how he's like painting the town red.
Right. Yeah. And both of those roles are like where he is. I mean, I think I said this all it was like what, 5 years ago that I did the Titanic podcast with you guys.
27.
That's, how long?
Yeah.
27 years. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It was probably 7 years ago.
I mean, for real, that's insane.
Yes.
Stupid.
But yeah, I mean, he is, and I was reminded of this even watching his final moments, dying on that door in Titanic when I caught it at the tail end of it on TV. He is a manic pixie dream boy in
Yes.
both of those movies, and he is an object to be projected upon for, you know, tragic teen girl fantasies, and that's why it works so well. And it, like, in a way, it doesn't matter that he's painting the town red or like not being this tragic dying boy in real life, because that mythology is so powerful, and those movies were just seen by everybody, so that was him.
Yes.
And he was so damp.
So damp.
The disconnect between what he represented on screen and the gossip about him in real life, only like it was this weird electric charge that each one helped boost the other, even though they were so diametrically opposed. But I do think there's something that I had never seen this movie before, and so much of what I knew about this movie was just the lore of the fallout between McGregor and Boyle, and the like, would this have been a better movie with McGregor? And for me, this is kind of like Barry Lyndon, where it's like the better actor giving the better performance would not have necessarily made this movie any better. There's something about casting the guy who is a little bit too close to this.
Yeah.
Who is maybe in a bit of a self-destructive spiral.
100%.
And has no self-awareness about his approach to this role. I think that's the thing. I don't think his image of himself matches, like, you know, how he should approach this role at this point in his career.
No, but also just so fully handing himself over to a director and being like, do you know how to use me? What do you want from me? You know, the marching in the video game sequence, the Banjo-Kazooie thing, it's just like, it's astonishing because you just question who he would put that amount of faith and trust into, you know? And you can like talk about like what are the funniest or weirdest or oddest or most shocking things that like Scorsese or Tarantino have gotten him to do. But there's something about like, really, you're not more protective of your screen image at this point, where you're cool with just being like part of Boyle's stylistic experiments and looking like a fucking goober in the process. But there's something he's revealing in himself here that he could not consciously give up, you know, but that he's sort of like volunteering, that he's sacrificing at the altar the idea of this movie and what he thinks Boyle can do for him. And it is like, you talk about the shark story, and it's so similar to, you read the New Yorker pieces, the Leo Prince of the City, but all the accounts of like, you know, they talk to club owners and they're like, yeah, he comes in, he starts fist fights. And they're like, he starts fist fights? And they're like, yeah, but no one's upset about it. You can tell he's just kind of having fun. Even the people he's fist fights aren't like upset with him. And that just stops after a while because no one's actually upset about anything.
Right.
And there's that weird thing where you're like, why is this guy getting away with this?
Yeah.
Why is like everyone kind of cool with this? Not only
they're
like
playing
kind of
his game. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. There's something very, I mean, in general, I think this is true, but there's something very cruisy about like this stage of Leo, I think.
Yes.
But in a way that is less successful than I think Tom Cruise is, because it's the same thing. It's like put me in your hands. I've researched what director I want to work with, and like I'm committed to this. I'm going to give you 110%. But I think Tom Cruise pulls it off way more, especially in this kind of time period than Leo does.
Well, Leo also was good at a certain kind of like tortured intensity thing, and like
Basketball Diaries, absolutely,
right,
Romeo and Juliet, that was his whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, it came out so much more in the Way of Water press, but how much he didn't want to do Titanic, how much he didn't even want to read for it, that he was like, I don't want to be a movie star. I want to be a serious actor. And that it was the challenge to Cameron of like, this is harder to do than the things that you think are more impressive. There are fewer people who can do this, which has sort of been the central conflict of Leo and everything post-Titanic, is him running away from the thing he can do that so few people can, to try to prove he's the type of serious actor that is a lot more common, you know?
But I think he threaded that needle. I think
he finally did.
I think he fully figured that out. But the thing, all right, so here's look, the hugest mistake in my opinion, and it's one they're aware of because Andrew McDonald says this, is this is a movie that's clearly going to be marketed towards young men, and they are going to be scared of Leonardo DiCaprio because that is the audience that's like, well, that guy's for girls, right? Like that guy's, you know, from romance movies essentially. And I don't think they ever
especially
figured
in this
that
era
out. They're aware of it.
Yes.
Exactly.
If young women like something, all straight men in America become violently opposed to it.
I'm supposed to be scared of that.
Yeah, I mean, Pattinson is like a similar thing. I mean, I was thinking it was like when you're talking about him as being the only comparable thing, it's like who, if you're doing an SNL sketch at the time, who's going to be the person that you bring up as like somebody that a teenage girl is freaking out over?
Yeah.
And it was Pattinson for a long time. We don't really have one other than like maybe Timmy Chalamet right now, but
it may be Harry Styles.
I was going to say it's a little
Sure.
Timmy, it's a little Harry, but it's like you have to combine the two of them almost.
Yeah. But like both of them are going to have an interesting second phase of their career because like Robert Pattinson ended up circumventing this by going underground essentially. And like Leo never did that. Leo could have actually gone quite small here and then rebuilt his reputation as whatever the serious actor he wanted to be, but he only chose high profile pictures. And I think that wasn't going to work out for him for those exact reasons.
But that is how he does. He's like, okay, forget it. I'll work with Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese.
Right.
And then that's it. That's how he rebuilt it. Then he just did 4 movies in 4 years, 3 directed by Scorsese and 1 directed by Spielberg. That was that was the creation of his modern star persona.
He did those movies, but we are all saying like he was dinged for Gangs of New York as still being baby. Like when does he become? Yeah, he gets to do these big movies and work with these people that he admires and that everybody admires and would consider the pinnacle of what an actor could be involved in at that time. But like, is he respected on the level of a De Niro then? I don't think so. Like,
no.
Like it takes a long. Yeah. I mean, well, he kind of is now. I mean, he got his Oscar finally. Like, I don't know.
He got his Oscar and he's a big major star, but De Niro is just kind of whatever. That's sort of special, right? It's hard there, there's nobody that's quite like that anymore.
But this is also like, if we're playing this comparison game, right? The Pattinson comparison falls apart immediately because his Titanic is a franchise. He has to do it 5 times, right?
Yeah, which that hurts
stuck
him.
in it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And then there's also this relationship. Oh, the relationship has spread off screen. That's a thing that people are projecting onto. There's all the additional drama about that. And then like the first couple of movies he does outside of Twilight immediately don't connect. It's like Water for Elephants and Remember Me. It's like you're not getting But you're not getting the immediate, like, oh, they'll go see anything he's in. No one's, like, losing their shirt on those movies, but, like, it's not the same thing as even this, where you're, like, you got a bunch of tween girls to see a really weird movie just because his face was
not
on
losing
a
his shirt
poster.
on it, then there's your problem.
Hey, that's the problem. But the other thing is that, like, as you're saying, Pattinson then went small, right? He found his art house directors. He took his supporting parts. He slashed his quote. The whole reason American Psycho falls apart despite the fact that he really wants to do it, that he wants to do it with Stone, that's a major director he wants to work with. It's getting close to coming together, and then Leo goes, it's $20 million.
Right.
I need to be paid $20 million.
It may not just be Leo. I'm sure Leo's team is like, by the way, this is Leonardo DiCaprio, so it will be costing $20 million.
The Leo machine is now saying $20 million, and that's an artisan movie, and they're not going to be able to pull that money. And so that's the moment where Fox senses like there's an opportunity here. They go to Boyle, and as we said, the timeline of this is all confusing, right?
Right.
But
it's just not clear who has the idea.
But he did basically said there was that sense of, if you're going to be working on a bigger budget, you might need someone who's a little more proven. And then at some point, the word crosses that like Leo's in play.
Right.
Leo's available, and he would be interested in this, and we would be willing to pay him $20 million. And if we Fox pony up the money, we get Leo. But that's part of the thing that Leo refuses to. He's going to do his weird movie on a big scale and get paid massive money for it, rather than frame it as a one for me.
So the way Boyle puts it is, look, if he's going to do American Psycho, that's burning his romantic star image down completely. Mm-hmm. And I think it's better to try and exploit that, right? This is a movie that's trying to lure you into this beautiful secret island. We figured let's leverage his persona, to sort of get the audience into it, and then we can kind of mess with it. So Boyle himself is like, I did not want to do anything as extreme as American Psycho, where it's like, oh, this pretty man, he's actually chopping off Reese Witherspoon's head and putting it in the fridge.
Yes.
And that's where Andrew McDonald's sort of self-awareness comes as well. I think it's also, once you're on the roller coaster, it's like, okay, let's do it, right? It's like, okay, we signed him up, we have the money. I guess now it's time to go to Thailand and fucking try and make this movie. And then trying to make this movie, they have a really hard time. This movie was really hard to make, and it seems like it was kind of a nightmare. Just because of the shooting on location and all that stuff. And it's just funny that like you get Leo to get all the money, right? Like you get Leo partly to be able to make this movie, but then it's fucking awful making this movie. Like this is Danny Boyle's Apocalypse Now, except he doesn't get a masterpiece out of it.
And this movie obviously like directly calls it shot with Apocalypse Now. I was listening to James Gray's WTF, and he just talked about how Apocalypse Now was his activation movie. That was the thing that made him realize that like cinema was an art form. Coppola was his god. It's so much of why he single-mindedly was so obsessed with doing Lost City of Z for so long. And then basically the second he got to the jungle, he was like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Why? It's awful here. It's so hard to make a movie.
Go to the jungle. Don't go to the jungle.
This thing of like, do you realize how complicated it is to get any piece of equipment here? Okay. Now that for a whole movie set, like that's what we have to do. We have to take it on a boat. We have to
It's so stupidly complicated to shoot a movie in an apartment, let alone a controlled soundstage.
Yeah, and there's bugs. It can rain for days on end and fuck you up your schedule in like
you have
a major
no control
way.
of the weather.
Yeah, I did the Larry Fessenden movie Beneath, that was like Jaws, but with a bunch of high schoolers and a prehistoric fish in the water. And we filmed that in like a reservoir in Connecticut. And basically they built a barge in the middle of this reservoir with like a camera jib. And the whole crew was on this barge. And they had multiple boats, each on a different side that was like hidden by a rope underwater at a different length, so they could get shots of us at different lengths. But basically we would get into that boat, we'd be in that boat the whole day, regardless of camera setups, because they couldn't like pull us back in over and over again. And it was like a 4-minute motorboat ride from land to the barge. And it was impossible. And everything went wrong and everything sank. And that was like a far less extreme situation than that. But it was one of those things where like the adage is you don't shoot on water, never shoot on water, never work with children or animals. And even if this movie isn't shot on water, you're shooting it on an island surrounded by water, where the whole point is like, let's find like beautiful untouched land and then fuck with it. and then bring a whole company in to make their movie on top of it.
Yes. Obviously, this film was tagged for the incredible amount of damage that was supposedly done to the locations that they shot on and all that, and the many accidents that occurred while making the movie. Now, there's such a spotlight on this movie that that's probably part of what's going on, but it does just seem like it was a nightmare. Boyle says they have been misrepresented. He thinks they behaved as well as they could have, and they tried their best not to, like, fuck anything up, with the acknowledgement of, like, movies have an effect on the environment and all that. Garland says, Garland's quotes are so salty. I just love it. Every single quote from Alex Garland. He says, there's something completely patronizing about painting Thailand as a virginal, innocent place that's about to be raped by the Western beast. Like, tourism exists. It's not a bad thing. It's an income. Like, anyway, so Garland, very salty about that. But I think the craziest thing that happened, obviously, is this giant boat accident where they were in these two giant boats they were shooting. I think it was, they were going to shoot a scene with DiCaprio and Swinton leaving the island to go get the rice and all that. And there's a giant storm kicks up and capsizes the boats, and they have to abandon ship. We're talking like Leonardo DiCaprio, Tilda Swinton, Darius Kanji, Danny Boyle, like the major people involved in this movie, and they have to float around in the water waiting to get picked up by speedboats, and there's a crazy storm going on. And Danny Boyle basically says, like, it was really frightening. These grown men who are like grips and gaffers, who are really heavy guys, were crying. We were really lucky nobody died. Like, and he says, like, Leo was there. He's a good swimmer. He helped people who weren't a good swimmer. Like, it was not a flippant event. Like, it was very intense. It's very interesting to read just how sort of straightforward. Danny Boyle is so open. He really talks about all the bad stuff in every one of these dossiers. And he really makes it sound like a nightmare.
I'm kind of fascinated, and I was thinking this watching this film, but Danny Boyle seems like a distinctly unhaunted person.
Sure. Yes. Right. So cheerful.
For a guy whose movies can often have this sort of nihilistic attitude.
Yeah.
He's always so sunny about everything, and it doesn't feel performative. And even just the beginning of this movie feels so that the Gen X-y is all of this fucking bullshit, meaningless,
Yeah.
It feels, the sentiment feels honest in the films. And then even when I was watching the behind the scenes sort of like footage from Train Spotting, he's so up the whole time, and he's like, heroin's a lovely drug. There's a reason people do it. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, well, it seems like there's something, if you are able to acknowledge things like, for example, a shoot being a nightmare, or like, which a lot of people would be, prideful about, or want to be like, no, my nothing goes wrong on my sets. Like, I was totally prepared. Yeah, if you can acknowledge that, if you can acknowledge your own shortcomings, it's sort of like, and you're not poisoned by this, this idea of infallibility that you need to have as a director, then like, yeah, I think then you're more able to depict like that kind of short-sightedness and egomania and vice and stuff in a way. Like, I don't know. I feel like he has clear eyes about that stuff.
He has more of a perspective. Yeah, he does seem pretty devoid of ego as well. Yeah. I mean, when you hear him talk about his films, it really feels like this is a collaborative process. Yeah. This is a creative process. I'm not some genius with some perfect vision of the thing that I'm yelling at other people to execute.
Well, like, you can't, and talking about this movie specifically, like, you can't be this guy, like Richard, and make this movie. It just
No.
doesn't work. And I don't think that Danny Boyle is. I don't think Alex is at all, like for the book. I can't really speak to John Hodge. I don't know. I don't know anything about him. But you know, I think that jury's out on Leo. Like Leo might be that guy. And so I think everybody needs to have like a little bit of distance from that guy in order for this whole thing to work. And I think almost everybody does.
Speaking to this, this is Boyle's recollection. He says, it's my least enjoyable personal experience on a film. It has nothing to do with the actors, but the lack of empathy I felt with the characters and the situation they created for themselves. I think he just, in retrospect, he's just like, I was not as connected to that material as I maybe hoped to be, right?
That's
you know what I mean? Like,
it's so fascinating when his first movie was about murderers and his whole pitch was, I don't think we need to make these characters sympathetic. We should own it.
But that's the thing, is that they don't own it in this movie. There's no real criticism.
Which, again, I like. Right. Well, there's maybe no critic, but like they certainly are not self-aware. Any of the characters in this,
sure,
they're very lacking in that. Yes.
And the idea of a commune full of, you know, tourists on this island shared with a weed farm is really taken at face value as like a cool thing. And it kind of leaves these open, you know, these kind of untied up things as far as Bugs and Sal and their motivations, because they're the kind of only people who have a sort of sinister aspect to them. But everything else is kind of like, wouldn't this be sick? And and if he had owned the fact that like maybe there would be some things about it that weren't sick, I mean sick in a positive way, then I think he might have had a film he could have plugged into more. And that's honestly, that's the book, is that version of that film.
This is why this movie should have the bad ending. You kind of want them all to be punished by the end of the movie. I mean,
I think the movie, it feels like the movie gets there in the sort of standoff scene.
Right.
And then that's why it feels so disappointing when it then
it.
sort of cops out of it. Because that does get sort of exciting where you go like, oh, fuck, this movie is now starting to reckon and sort of revisit all of everything that's presented to us through a different lens.
And the whole Christo shark thing too. I mean, in the book, that's one of the most interesting kind of sequences, because it really is like how this unfortunate event is like this poison to the whole group, and like everybody's instinct is like, well, I will pretend I do not see it. And it's sort of this really, the way it's written is really feels like this like sociological study. And I mean, I think it's pulled off pretty well in that whole thing is pulled off pretty well in the books. But again, you're talking about some pretty dark shit there as far as like groupthink and like, you know, a collective, you know, I don't know, like, everybody's just being very stubborn about this culture that they're trying to create and maintain. But then, it kind of opts out. It kind of walks away from it.
But also the fact that so much of this movie basically hinges on him wanting to steal this guy's girlfriend, right? I mean, that's like so much of the motivation of this film, which is so similar to all the Elizabeth Berkley stories you read from like peak Leomania.
I mean, just the fact that monogamy is a major issue on this beach at all, kind of annoys me. That like that it's like, is this not supposed to be some sort of like free-flowing utopian semi-nude paradise? And then everyone's like, but wait, did you check with your girlfriend that I could, you know, it's like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
They should all be fucking, the boys and the girls all together.
It's almost the single most shocking and surprising thing in the movie when he asks Tilda Swinton, what is this? And she's like, well, we're having sex. It's fun. You shouldn't take it seriously. But by the way, never mention this to anyone on the island. Our society will collapse.
Right. So and anytime like you're getting into stuff where he's like hallucinating, he's like questioning reality and stuff, and then it's like, Sal told everybody that she fucked you, and then it's just like, oh no, like
he's
it
like,
comes
now
back
I'm
to the most
ruined.
like high school shit. I mean, I will say, like, to the degree I will talk about anything that we did on our version of the beach, that was not an issue in our version of the beach.
Right. You threw that rule in the garbage.
Everyone was fucking.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's talk about the script, to the story to some extent. Let's move through the plot of this movie.
I just want to say, as a way into this, I had not seen this before last night.
Oh, right. You had never seen it.
Never
right.
seen it. And I sort of like half remembered the marketing campaign, which I remember being pretty vague. And so much of the selling of the movie was just Leo's back. This will be a hit because Leo is back.
He's looking up.
His face,
looking up at the
his
sky.
face is on a poster. I remember the trailer just being the soundtrack and the shots of the beach and being kind of vague about what happened. Maybe the trailers were more direct than I remember. And I think between that and just sort of retroactively applying what I now know about Garland and his work, I had it in my head this movie was more supernatural. I thought there was a supernatural kind of Twilight Zone-y thing going on.
I thought there was like a smoke monster, maybe.
Like a beach that makes you old or something.
Or that. Yeah.
No, but I was almost kind of like, I was, queuing this movie up last night and I was like, oh, it's kind of cool. I've gone all these years and I still haven't had ruined for me what the twist is in the beach. And I was ready for like the sci-fi hook. And it wasn't like I was still waiting for it at the end of the movie, but at a certain point, I went on the Wikipedia and I was just like, oh, I've just completely invented that. This is what this movie is about. It is about this actual tangible attempt at a new type of society.
Yeah. But I mean, if it's pulled off, and I think it is in the book, it's like the supernatural monster that you feel like is lurking, because I agree, like it feels like something like that could happen in any moment. It ends up just being people, which is totally a Garland thing, but like and that feels like it satisfies that need for some, kind of spooky, ineffable thing.
I didn't feel disappointed by it at all, but to ease into the beginning of the movie itself, the setup feels like it is potentially teeing up that kind of movie. When you start with the sort of chaos of Leo roaming the streets, and especially when you get to Robert Carlyle, like, that's such a fucking Treasure Island. Like, there's a map.
100%. Yeah.
I tells you.
And Robert Carlyle's like half demon in this movie anyway.
Right.
Like, he does not seem like a real person.
And the fact that there's sort of all this lore about it, it feels so mythical what they're talking about, whether or not it even exists. And if it does exist, is it something where there's a giant frozen tundra wheel at the center and it's only available on certain lunar eclipse days or whatever? But yes, you start with Leo roaming the streets looking for a good time.
Leo's in Bangkok. He meets a cute French couple, Françoise and Etienne. Françoise is played by Virginie Ledoyen, who's so pretty, in my opinion.
She's cute.
She's unbelievably pretty, I would say.
She's really amazing in the SAS movie Cold Water, if anyone's ever seen that.
Yes. And I would say Guillaume Canet is kind of annoyingly handsome in this.
He's French. You want to punch him.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now that guy, obviously, he's an actor, but obviously he directs as well, Guillaume Canet, and now he is the new Asterix. Which Griffin?
Oh, really?
I forgot to tell you this, but maybe Asterix should go on the Patreon.
David, I'm glad you said it because I was going to. It was part of my big pitch.
Yeah,
the live action.
I think those movies like start okay, get really bad, and then there's one that everyone likes that seems to be the sort of Anyway.
Yeah, but the other wild thing is this one is basically them readapting one of the stories they've already made into a movie. This is the Dark Phoenix of them. But now it's Canet, who was 10 years ago supposed to be the edgy adult director, and now he's given into franchise shit, and he's playing the guy, and he got Cotillard to play Cleopatra.
Right, his wife.
Yes.
Or partner, or whatever.
Yes.
Anyway, meets Daffy. Daffy's like, listen, there's this fucking crazy island, this uninhabited beach that a bunch of people live on, and then he kills himself.
I'm surprised you could even make all of that out, David. That's what he was saying, because it's a very quiet performance. It's sort of hushed tones.
I love this performance. I think Robert Carlyle is one of the best things in this movie. Like, yeah,
I agree.
And you have, like, even though Daffy's in a very limited way, like, he's so important to the like mythology of why everybody's
I like
doing.
that he gets sprinkled back in. I like anytime Daffy pops up.
Yeah.
Being like Hugo Weaving in Cloud Atlas, basically. Just like, doing that.
Carlisle, one of those guys for me who I think basically can't go over the top. Like the bigger he gets, the more right. Yeah, and it feels like when he goes this big, you're like, you are tapping into a genuine mania. This doesn't feel like someone eating a ham sandwich. It feels like you have unlocked some horrible chamber in your mind. But yes, his energy is just incredible.
And this is the thing also, like, yeah, he's crazy, whatever. He's a lunatic, but I just find him so much more likable than Leo, especially in this opening. When like Leo does the thing where he's like, you're fucked in the head, right? I'm just like, fuck you, man. Like, this guy's trying to tell you a story. Like, have some respect.
Yeah. By the way, it's a good fucking story. It's a better story than the dumbass shark story you're going to tell us. Also, coming off of Carlisle playing Begbie, the worst hang of all time, I'm like, I'm down to spend a night with Daffy. I want to see where this goes.
Yeah.
I just think it's wild to see someone have stabbed themselves a bunch of times and be like, dude, I gotta go to that island.
Right.
It seems like a really good time.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
A guy whose energy to begin with was not like chilled out. It's not like that.
No.
Like, I love this island. It made me the man I am.
Island's so good, makes you stab yourself when you leave.
Damn, I gotta get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I think this is like the thing that should make the movie like a satire on this, but it kind of misses being the satire, is that like to see that and then to have that character be like, yeah, exactly. I gotta see this island is funny. It's funny and it should be funny. And it's like, and that's the kind of thing that people call the Gen X like the Gen X, why it's a Gen X classic or something, is that there's something. I mean, I do want to kind of get into this later, like why it has that reputation, but that there's this sort of this tunnel vision for this character.
It has that reputation because it's like many a right before 9/11 movie where you're like, the fuck is this guy? What's he even worried about? He's like,
right.
You don't even want to know about my mom and dad. Anyway, I had to go to Thailand and then go to the secret murder beach because it's the only way for me to experience anything because I don't understand what I'm supposed to do with myself.
Right.
Like, it's the perfect like end of history thing where it's just like, I don't know, there's no Cold War, America's won. Do I just buy things or do I like seek authenticity, which probably is not available to me?
It's the seeking authenticity thing though, and like that the whole thing is this metaphor for trying to get into the band before everybody else gets into the band.
100%, right.
Yeah,
the beach is only good because it's secret.
Yeah. And like, I can't have this great thing that is like, you know, beautiful and amazing be seen by anybody, like heaven forbid. And then it just becomes this toxic self-defeating cycle. So
let me throw something out. Is the beach that good? Is it that good?
Okay.
It doesn't actually seem that good. It seems
they play volleyball.
Boring.
David, I didn't
swim.
think you would go there because you're a big beach guy. I love
the beach.
The beach. I was watching this movie and I was thinking, this beach looks pretty nice. Now, was I at any point thinking I want to be there? No, but have I ever thought that about a beach? You, as a mild connoisseur of beaches, you feel like this beach isn't worth, say, the risk of murder?
It's fine, right? It seems like a nice place, and you know, if someone could just like open a door and be like, "Hey, do you want to spend the day on this beach?" I'd be like, "That sounds incredible." But like that he's there and he's like, "My God, a whole new world. We can play volleyball. We eat fish that we get out of the water, and then we play more volleyball, and then we sit on the beach, and then it's time for fish, and then we play volley." It's like they don't do anything. They just, it's fine. It's a little boring.
But this is the thing about the beach. It doesn't need to be good because it has the most incredible marketing campaign in the world. Like,
this is true.
He could not get there and be disappointed by it because he's just like fucking like swam across a channel and dodged dudes with AKs and
the
stuff.
The journey is part of the appeal, right?
If you got there and you were like, you couldn't admit it. You could never admit it to yourself that you did all that for that.
Weed grows on the beach. Let's not forget that, okay? That's kind of a big thing.
But you can't have the weed because I guess they get some of the weed, but
Yeah, they got their separate.
They get a bit of weed. No, what I was gonna say is that you guys were talking about it from the lens of his search for authenticity, but so much of it too is the like, this world is too fucking safe. I need to like experience danger, but it has to be danger with an escape hatch. It's the amount of danger I want to take before I get on a plane and then resume my life on rails.
Yeah.
This is, you say pre 9/11 movie. I think also fundamentally a pre Jackass movie. When in the 2000s, men finally figured out the healthy way to work through their lust for danger. Tape yourself to a giant rocket, wear a silly costume, film it, put it on MTV or in theaters.
Well, importantly, film it. Like a lot
Film
of this
it,
itch
yes.
is scratched if you can share with other people the crazy shit that you did. Like
Yes.
I'm sure that a lot of the sort of lingering dissatisfaction that he's had with every single experience he's had thus far is like, well, but nobody knows how cool I am for having, drank the snake blood or whatever. I haven't,
Right.
shared it on my TikTok or whatever. I mean,
But
Right.
there's a bit of the Into the Wild thing where it's like, all of this is fake. All of you are lying. I want to be in touch with what's real. I want to have actual challenges. But this is coming from a much more aggro guy whose attitude is a lot more about domination in some way.
But when you're that age, you don't want to go to a resort, right? That's
No,
too
Right, well, but-
tame. You want to go and experience something that like not everyone else can see. So I do understand a little bit of
I don't know, but like resorts have like bathrooms.
Yeah, I love bathrooms. No, I get what you're saying, Ben. I'm just
yeah.
fun. I am the opposite. I
Yeah.
was like, I want to go to a place that is air conditioned.
yeah. Well, there's a point when they're like hacking their way through the fucking rainforest after they've
Yeah.
like before they jump off the cliff and finally get there, where you're just like, guys, are you on vacation still? Because it
Yeah, who
doesn't look
needs
like you're on vacation anymore.
That's
It
not
looks like you're
relaxing.
exhausted and hungry and you're with bare feet in the fucking jungle. Like, doesn't seem fun to me. But yeah.
Everyone's
And-
lying about who they are or are not fucking.
yeah. Yeah. On top of all your
Yes.
other problems, you have a love
Yeah.
triangle.
Look, they get to the beach. It's run by Tilda Swinton in basically her first performance in a studio film. So she's kind of like a casting coup at this point.
May I say it?
Is the coolest. Go ahead.
Is this the hottest she's ever been in a movie?
No.
Orlando.
She's very hot in Orlando. She's very hot in this. I usually find her hot, I will
Yeah.
say. I don't, it's like too tough a question in a way. She's incredible in Orlando. But you knew she was in it, Griffin, right?
I did know she was in. I thought she was going to be whatever mythical. I thought she was going to have a
you thought she-
similar role to Vanilla Sky. I thought
she
she
would come
was-
out and maybe have like hooves or wings or something.
Yeah, right. Or she'd be some
Be
AI
a mermaid.
sentient.
Yeah,
Yeah,
She'd
right.
be her role in Constantine. She'd just be in the same costume.
That's what I was hoping. She
That'd be
doesn't do that
cool.
enough. She hasn't played the fallen angel Gabriel enough.
Yeah. Bring it
Well, hopefully
back.
she will in Constantine too, right?
Yes.
God. Let me write Constantine too.
Yeah, you know what? Yes. Have they announced a fucking writer for Constantine 2? And if they have, why isn't it Emily Yoshida?
Can we announce it right
don't
here
know.
now? Like, I gotta call my shot. I'm gonna write Constantine too. You heard it here first, folks.
Constantine 2 has to be clean of the James Gunn DC stuff, right? Or is that going to get fucked up?
Not my problem. As the writer of Constantine 2, not my problem.
Yeah. You know what? In fact, Emily, why don't you, as the writer of Constantine 2, formally announce now that it is clean of the James Gunniverse?
It's DC Elseworlds.
It's DC Elseworlds.
It's an Elseworlds.
David,
What's up?
Moby,
What?
it's that time again.
This episode is brought to you by Moby, the curated streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema.
It's beginning to look a lot like Moby.
Very true. They got iconic directors.
Yes.
Emerging auteurs.
Yes.
always something new to
You got
discover.
short films, you got features, you got docs.
You know, we've been talking about some of these recent stuff they've got. Lars von Trier's The Kingdom, Exodus, as well as the earlier seasons of
The
his crazy
exclusive streaming
hospital
home for
show.
the remastered original Kingdom series. Decision to Leave, obviously, was a Mubi release.
Park Chan-wook's unfairly Oscar snubbed Decision to Leave, streaming on Mubi exclusively.
But David, pull up the old browser and tell me what's new on Mubi right now.
What's on Mubi right now?
Personal endorsement.
Ooh, To Sleep with Anger.
One of
my
your favorite movies.
Charles Burnett's To Sleep with Anger.
Yes.
Is on there.
That is one of your 10 favorite movies of all time?
Possibly. I don't know. Was it on my sight and sound? I think it wasn't, but it should have been. Diamantino, which I recently watched on Mubi.
I have only heard great things about that.
It's so fun, that one. I really liked that. You know, he's a football player. He's seeing giant puppies. He's
Dreamlike
having,
imagery.
You know, masculine crisis. It's great.
Mhm.
Sean Baker's Tangerine.
One of my favorites.
Yeah,
Of the last
fantastic
10
film.
years.
You can see where that all, you know, started to explode. He'd made movies before then, obviously, but he's made some great movies.
He's got a new movie coming out.
I think he's
What's he
working
up
on
to?
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah Polly's Away from Her. If you want to
Wow.
see Sarah Polly's debut film, that's her debut film, right? As director.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is an excellent film.
She's 26 when she made that movie. Aggravating.
Yeah. Today's film of the day is Modern Romance, a masterpiece.
The Albert Brooks movie that is
Brooks's.
often hard to see.
Often hard to see. So go enjoy.
Yeah. We love Moby. What more is there to say?
Nothing
How
more
many ways
to
can
say,
you say I love you?
except you can try Movie free for 30 days at Mubi.com/check. That's MUBI.com/check for a whole month of great cinema for free. Movie.
Moby.
Who? Okay, all right. Patterson Joseph. Speaking of hotties,
Mm-hmm.
who plays Keedy, just rocking
Yeah.
the most incredible body. I love Patterson Joseph. This is early in his career.
He's great. in this.
He's got fun energy. He loves cricket. You know, he's cheerful. You've got Unhygienics, the chef, the fishmonger, essentially.
The thing about Keedy in this version of things is when you're like, we're going to keep coming back to this shark speech because it is the crux of like
Ugh.
what makes him obnoxious and what's supposed to be a proof of his charisma or something. But like, Keedy is already so charismatic and fun and like is doing church and shit and playing cricket with people and he's hot and like it's like, why did you have to wait for this guy to come? Like, you already have Keedy here. He seems like a great hang. He seems like a cool, like, you know, mascot person to get behind. Is your like spiritual leader if Sal's gonna be the spooky leader, you know? I don't know.
This island isn't in need of a party, dude.
It's
Right.
very true. Yeah.
No, exactly. Party dude's coming out the wazoo.
Yeah.
He brings nothing to the island. I think that works as part of the sort of quiet satire of the movie of like, this is almost like a playground that's been set up for him. But it's true. He doesn't really do much apart from have sex with Francoise in the ocean. And then, yes, supposedly
Plankton
kill a
sex.
shark. Glowing plankton sex. Yes. And then he kills a shark and brags about it and everyone cheers. And it's this monologue and it's horrible and it just
They love
doesn't
it.
work.
They love it. Yeah.
I mean, am I wrong? Did you guys like that sequence where he does that monologue?
No.
Well, what are you asking here? Do I
don't
the
mean-
reality of this movie, like the monologue, or do I think the scene works?
The latter. I know you don't like the monologue in the reality of the movie, but like, because I don't even find that. And like, hey, this is Leo. He's given great bombastic, you know, sort of speeches in other movie. He figures that out.
Yeah.
But I just don't quite get his energy here. Like he
I think
feels
this
like a
scene-
phony.
kind
No,
of
you're
works.
totally right. It
Yeah.
feels like this is an audience full of plants who were told to laugh and clap for him.
Right.
It's just like, it's so
in his
funny.
Paradise Sim.
Yeah. They're like, it's like Truman Show. It's like everybody's like waiting. They're watching him approach and be like, okay, guys, places. Like, we're going to make this guy feel so special. It really does feel like that, though.
That is another reason, though, why I think this movie is helped by having Leo specifically in it, is you need that guy who just has that weird vibration about him at that time, you know? Like the kind of just like absurdly famous, charismatic person where people basically convince themselves to laugh even if nothing funny is happening.
Yes.
There's just some odd energy circling this guy.
I largely agree with that. I think that's why Leo's casting whether or not he's giving a good performance does it. There's no one like him at this moment for this movie.
No.
So there's just something unique about watching that. But Richard himself, I don't know. If I were like, like if the island brought in a consultant, right, to be like, hey, can you sort of streamline some processes here? I'd be like, this guy, get him out. Next boat. This guy doesn't do anything. I'm sorry.
Here was a thought I had while watching this movie. Looks fun to be unbelievably hot.
You mean in temperature or in attractiveness?
Attractiveness.
Okay. Yes.
I run hot. I don't have a problem in that area. I'll sweat at the drop of a hat. But
it's pretty good. I enjoy it.
Okay, Ben.
I like it very
Want
much.
it too hard. Don't fucking big dog the rest of us. Hot Rod Hosley over
Everyone
here.
in this movie is basically wearing an open Hawaiian shirt,
Yes.
cargo shorts, and Tevas, and they all look super hot. So
And
yes,
all of their hair has been sun bleached the same color.
Right.
right.
I just these are my least favorite kind of people, like in real life. So
I don't
like they can be super
these
hot, but
people.
I'm still like, oof.
These people are the reason I will largely avoid the beach and vacation
Right.
spots. It's not that I was like getting horned up watching all of them. There's just sort of the moment where it's like this love triangle, all three of them are incredibly pretty, right? And then the moment when the sort of island opens up and they go inside the little hut, their meeting space or whatever, and you just see that everyone looks like that. I'm like, oh, it is like a United Colors of Benton ad here. Everyone here is just genetically has that weird glow to them.
Yeah.
I don't specifically envy any of them visually, but I'm also like, what did it feel like to be on that fucking set when everyone looks like that?
Yeah, that was probably fun. Although it seems like everyone was mostly stressed out and
Sure.
hungry.
Trying not to die, I guess, is the answer.
Right. So nothing really happens except for ocean sex and fishing, and then Sal, Tilda Swinton's character, decides to go to the mainland with Richard. In a move that feels kind of like her picking her new favorite, right?
Yeah, she wants to fuck him.
She wants to fuck him. And
I do want to just briefly
they
call
go on a
out
supply run and have sex. Yes, go ahead.
a
Griffin.
Boyle flourish that I think is particularly effective in this movie. The weird sort of like ghosting effect when Leo is looking at Virginie Leodon. I always get her name wrong.
Ledoyen.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Where she's sort of like smearing across the sky as he's looking at her on the beach at night.
Hell yeah.
I do think, I don't even know how to explain why, but it does feel like a good visualization of what it feels like when you're just sort of like entranced by someone.
Goo goo gaga over someone.
Yeah.
I do think this movie looks amazing. I love Darius Kanji.
Yeah.
And I just it feels just so it feels like so perfect for 2000, like the kind of like clubby color grading of it. I don't know, like the sort of neon-y.
Even that like day for night on the beach is like it's very unreal in a way that feels perfect for it. Yeah.
And all that's cool. The sex is fun.
But yeah, they go back to Koh Feng Yan.
Yes.
And
they run into the
the tourist that he slipped the map to in a moment of what would we call that hubris? him leaving the map for them. What do we make of this?
Well, when he does it, he also he probably doesn't really totally get what he's doing, right? Because he's kind of like he hasn't been to the beach yet.
No,
so he's sort of like
he
he's sort of
questions
bragging.
if it's real, and even if it is
yeah.
real, he has no idea it's anything like this.
But it's also kind of what you said about him and I think this is what is literally said in the film. Like it's like he kind of wants the escape hatch. He wants some people to be coming after him in case it is like you get there and you're all by yourself.
Yeah.
In the book, it's clearer that Daffy basically could not handle being at the beach anymore, but also did not want to return to society. And that like what he's doing is destructive. He's like trying to spread word of the beach because
he's trying to sabotage
he's like that
it.
will destroy it. Right. That's sort of less, pivotal.
That's not really
here.
clear in this.
Right.
Yeah.
And
He's
instead, it's more, it's just like Sal now has something on Richard. She's like, you told someone. Well, I won't tell anyone, but you're in my debt, essentially. Right?
Yeah, I can't believe we've made it this far in the episode without calling out the fact that this film has characters named Bugs and Daffy.
Bugs, Daffy.
It's true.
And Sal
And then
is supposed to be like
short for Sylvester.
Sylvester the cat. Yeah. They're all supposed to be Looney Tunes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So our I'm going up to the limit of probably what I should say, but like our show is about those three. It's like a kind of prequel of sorts. So
Are you
adding
sense. Any new characters like Porky or Tweety or Barnyard Dog or
that I can't say.
Marvin the Martian.
Okay.
My lips are sealed. Yeah.
So
Okay,
right,
yeah.
that makes sense though. Sal, Bugs, and Daffy, and they are the founders, one assumes, of the community, right? Like, so yeah,
yeah.
That's a cool. That's how I'd do it. I guess you could do the sort of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern version of the movie that's just about like impoverished
The
Thai
Swedes?
weed farmers who are like, there's some
well,
more fucking tourists. Can you get them?
Yeah.
Don't say anything,
I mean,
Emily. Don't spoil.
I
Okay.
won't say anything, but yeah, I will say like a lot more time is spent on Koh Phangan and a little bit of time on Koh Samui, which are like supposed to be the two closest islands to the beach.
Right.
And I do like the Rice Run part of the movie just as like for where it falls in the movie, because like you have to have, it's like the time when you need to have the reminder of what you're doing there, because you're right, it does feel kind of pointless. It feels a little bit anticlimactic to show up there and then all we do is play volleyball, like, and things are nice.
Right.
The end. And then to go back and be like, oh, but the important thing is that I'm not like these people, because this sucks. Like the whole Koh Phangan scene, the party, the beach parties and all that. Like you got to remember, we're better than these people. You have to have the periodic reminder of your superiority over these people.
Yeah, and it seems increasingly hard for like to imagine like going back and just being regular again. So that's part of what's trapping them.
Don't you think, aside from the fact that he's her new favorite and that she wants to fuck him and all of that the other reason she's bringing him back to the land is to sort of, she senses in him the restless shit stirrer, even if he's not getting tired of the beach yet. It's like, you need to fucking remind this guy how much this shit sucks so that he doesn't start getting any ideas.
Right. Maybe she sees a Daffy replacement here, but she needs to, give him that experience.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead, what happens is essentially she turns on him because he's a little weird about the sex, and it turned out he gave the map to someone else. And so when they get back, she's like, you are now sort of exiled. You have to like send away these tourists whenever they arrive. And eventually she reveals their deep dark secret that they had sex with each other, two grown adults. I know and Francoise is horrified.
Yeah, and they both get fired from the Today Show. Good Morning America. God damn it, I fucked up the joke.
So then there is a large chunk of movie, probably about half an hour, that is sort of Richard, Leo going insane while isolated and having various kind of visions and panicked, feverish sort of delusions that I am sure is when most of the ticket buying audience in 2000 was just like, okay, that's enough. I'm done with this, right? Like that's when people were just like, forget it.
I think you can hear crushes dying in real time in the theater. Like, it's him being unsavory is one thing, but him being this silly, it's like, you're killing my dreams.
Yeah. And like, doing the full Dennis Hopper type routine and the headband and everything. And like,
he's not even on anything though. That's what's crazy.
No, he's not. Well, this is a big
he eats a caterpillar.
He's high on life.
And he's high on life and caterpillar.
That's bullshit. At least make him trip on something.
This is an insane thing, though, is how drug-free this movie is aside from the weed field. Like,
my God.
This is not a drug-free scene. Like, it's like everything just off screen is, yeah.
They should be rolling face all the time.
Yeah.
They should be fucking eating CBD dog bones left and right.
Also, like, a ton of them would just be doing heroin because it's there. You know?
Well, also because, like, what else? You're on a beach. You can just chill out. It's a perfect space to be doing heroin, right?
Yeah.
You just take a nap.
Just lie
forever.
there.
Get old on the beach doing heroin.
And instead, it's like you get there and they're like, here's your job. And, you know, you get 3 hours of volleyball a day, and here's your spare set of Tivas. But apart from that, it's like regular life.
Job.
It should be like this orgiastic thing.
Yeah, I'm not doing shit.
It's like, too bad you are doing shit. Do you know how to hunt for fish with a spear? Well, get ready. You're gonna learn.
I had a great idea. Here's my job on the island: heroin tester. Let me test all the heroin first.
Make sure it's safe.
Yeah.
To quote Boyle about all of this, he says, "Apocalypse Now hovers over the book. It hovers over me and my whole career. We made the mistake of allowing the Coen brothers to influence us too much with Lifeless Ordinary, and we allowed the beach to be too Coppola-esque. Much as you might want it to be, it's no flattery to him. Like, he basically is like, Apocalypse Now, he says, is the closest as you're going to get to a cinematic experience of Vietnam. It might not be so appropriate to use it on a fantasy island full of annoying hippies."
It's funny though, because it's like the Boyle style is so pervasive that when he's getting influenced by these other people, it doesn't feel like he's doing a poor impression of them. It feels like he's struggling to match what they did well in their respective style to his own style.
Yeah. It feels just aware of them, even as he tries to do his own style. But the fact that it is aware of them kind of deflates it a little bit.
Yes.
I mean, one thing about this sequence that I think it kind of pulls off, but obviously, I think a lot of people are tuning out at this point, is like the idea that this is sort of the next step beyond the beach. Oh, like, so the beach is too, like, it's played out now. There's too many people there. How about just going into the jungle and being insane on your own? Is that
Losing
the
your
most
fucking
extreme thing? Like, and that's sort of and then you kind of get the sense that's where Daffy went. Like, that's sort of that's where the terminus is. If this is all you're chasing, or is the thrill of being different and the most extreme person in the world. And I think there are probably multiple reasons that the sequence doesn't work, but
the Banjo-Kazooie screen is the peak of that, but his whole like sentiment in the voiceover is like, I'm not fucking owned. I actually like this more.
Yeah, I love it.
I think this is actually better, and it's a game now, and I'm good at it.
Yeah. But I mean, the Banjo-Kazooie, it's so, like, with the blur playing, I mean, what, like, is there a more Gen X moment? Don't answer
it's
that.
Right up there. No, it's in the conversation. It's a semifinalist.
It's also crazy he goes to the weed growers like base and is like messing with them while they're sleeping.
Yeah.
It is. Yes.
But like
in a completely purposeless way. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not even doing anything. He's just getting the thrill of being that close to dying, essentially. And
like, okay, a little glass of water, put one of their fingers in, I'm on board. I get it.
Right.
Now I'm like, okay, you're pranking him. You're gonna
shaving
get
cream
one
on
of
the
them to
hand,
pee.
feather under the nose.
Yeah, exactly.
The
All
classics.
right. Griff, you're with me.
I'm with you. Draw a penis on the cheek. Take out a Sharpie.
That's
draw
what I'm
a little
saying. Yeah, I mean, I don't know
penis.
the translation in Thai, but we could figure it out.
You have to write out the word. I was just gonna say you draw the, you
Nice.
just do the little. Thank you.
that's a universal language.
That's the universal language.
It's a dong on the face.
Dung and balls.
We've all got them.
Hey.
I mean, but like they're universally, people have them everywhere. Is what I mean. I don't mean that everyone
Thank you.
has a dog
Important
and balls.
correction. You were gonna get canceled so hard.
Yes, I'm sorry. One thing that's funny, the dope field, as Boyle puts it, he's like, they actually offered to give us real dope fields to film in, but the government burns them if they discover them. So we weren't sure if we'd be able to use any field they gave us. So they grew their own field of hemp, not marijuana. And people then started stealing the hemp because they thought it was real drugs.
It's got some it's got some CBD in it. People could, make some tinctures.
Yes, he said you'd have to smoke about 20 kilograms to get a hit, he says. So if you can just imagine the most gigantic spliff imaginable, a 20 kilogram, a car size, whatever.
A spliff,
anyway.
You say?
Yes. Come on, it's the 90s, baby. The other, I really like the video game thing, even though it doesn't really mean anything within the plot of I just like the vibes of it. I like how it looks. I like the goofiness of Leo's stride.
It's the best part of his performance in this movie.
It might be.
It's great.
Yeah. But there is, to me, there's just kind of this element of like, I kind of want to see things go completely insane. The farmers shooting the invading tourists is kind of nasty and upsetting. It's not like there's nothing there, but I do like the final showdown where the farmer shows up and is basically saying to Tilda, like, look, you've let people in. We had a deal. This is over. You got to leave. And she's like, I'm not leaving. And the farmer just reads the room and he's like, this entire place is built on vibes. Like, I just have to disrupt the vibes. Like, this whole Jenga tower could come down with one bad vibe.
Yeah, and he presents his case as like, look, I gotta grow this weed so I can feed my family. What the fuck are you fuckers do? You can't eat vibes. It's a really good it's like it's like a little too late, like if I'm not for the character obviously, but like for the movie, like I want that raised sooner because I think it's such a good part of the film. But
and also just like this isn't a game for us. We don't have options.
Right. Yeah, and the fact that all of this is existing on the same island. You have just like a very functional weed farm where they're not fucking around. They will shoot you if you come toward the weed. And then, hot person beach where, you're just not supposed to care about anything anymore. And you can play your Game Boy all day, and get eaten by a shark.
100%. I think if the movie ended with this confrontation and Tilda attempting to kill Leo and failing, and that being the end of that would be fine. It is bizarre to then cut to an internet cafe where Francoise sends an email that's essentially like, that feeling when you're on the beach with a photo of everyone like,
love you like a sister.
Haggis.
Hags.
We got there.
I have no idea who thought that was a good idea. Like, I don't know if Boyle was like, well, we got to have an up note here, or if the studio was like, come on, guys, send them out of the theater happy. But it's silly.
Well, but Emily, it's what you invoked already in this episode. It's like the magic trick of the Titanic episode, the Titanic ending, rather, of like the fact that movie has a happy ending.
Yeah.
Is astonishing.
Yes, well,
and
I love that. Right.
Yeah. You have to wonder if they're just like, is there any way to leave people on a good note?
Yeah.
Coming out of this film, it's Leo. We're already going to have lost probably half the audience somewhere along the way. Can we leave them like a little bit up?
Yeah. Because, I mean, the story of the beach and the story of the Titanic, it's just you replace a few of the proper nouns, but it's basically the same story, right?
The same story.
You can end on a happy
story.
note with it. It's, yeah.
Hubris.
I mean, it just reeks of somebody who just didn't read the book, like a studio person who just didn't read the book and was like, this seems dark. Like, can we?
Yeah, I'm curious. I couldn't find the alternate shot ending online, but they said the DVD has 9 deleted scenes, including an alternate opening and an alternate ending. And there's commentary or introduction from Boyle explaining what he was trying to do and why it didn't work in his estimation. The worst part of the ending, truly, though, is just when you see his mouse go over to the email with the paperclip next to it and watching it, 23 years in the future and just going like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ, it's going to take 2 minutes to load. I'm going to have to watch this load one line at a time.
I love seeing all those IMAX, those beautiful, colorful IMAX, those big
I
bubbly
love
boys.
seeing the IMAX. The second he clicks that email,
Yeah.
I just like groan because I'm like, Boyle has enough integrity that he's not going to make it an immediate pop-up image. He's going to want to play it real, and that means we're not getting out of here for another like 5.
Well, I think there's like a little more like insult to injury in this too, which is like, you know, you're in this internet cafe, got all these shiny new iMacs there. And there is this moment where he's probably in the 2 minutes while he's waiting for the image to load that he looks around at the other people in the cafe and they are presented to us as losers. They're like, you know, oh fuck, like you're a slave to your computer. You're just
this
like
is the thing he was
staring
running
like
away
a zombie
from.
into the screen, and like, you know. But remember, me and my cool friends, we escaped. We did something cool, and
It is also. It's very funny that he has an email from, and the sender is just listed as mom and dad.
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
And the subject line is "Where are you?"
So funny. It's so funny. And then it's like, yeah, my parents suck. They don't care about me. It's like,
They have a joint email account. Losers.
But the tone being like, we'll never forget our summer at the beach. Like it's basically the fucking ending of Amsterdam. Where like Christian Bale always says like, we'll always have Amsterdam, that beautiful place where the three of us briefly connected. And it was like, you interpersonally, the three of you had a specifically bad time.
I feel like I don't know that anybody in the world can look back on their time at Amsterdam because I don't think that's a universally shared experience.
Tell that to David O. Russell. Undefeated.
I can't rag on anybody who's like an Amsterdam stan because I'm a Babylon stan. So yeah, everybody to their own.
Emily, here's the difference. Babylon's a masterpiece.
Yeah, Babylon rules.
Babylon fucking
you.
rocks and rolls. It's a killer movie.
Speaking of Looney Tunes, that movie is Looney Tunes. 3 hours of Looney Tunes, so fun.
Yeah, you know what sucks?
What?
Subtlety.
Yeah, fuck that.
Who fucking
Get it
needs
outta
that?
here.
I'm sorry that
2023,
Babylon
baby.
was too silly for you.
I'm supposed to think about your feelings, like, and how they're quietly developing over the boring.
Who gives a shit?
Poop on my face.
Honk shoe, honk
None
shoe,
of this
me,
matters.
me, me,
Honk shoe.
Before we play the box office game, I mean, you know, just to talk, the film's reception was poor.
Sure.
Critics said
Angry?
no. They said no to this
Yes.
one. Yeah.
They in fact maybe even said absolutely not.
Yeah, that's a no for me. I mean, the thing with Boyle is he was so, even forget the Leo part of it. It's just like when you are the cool director who's new on the scene, everyone's going to be like, all right, buddy, when are you not going to be cool? Right. When does it curdle? So he's got a target on his back anyway.
And a lot of those guys are wiping out. Like this is the exact period where a lot of the 90s, like fresh breath of fresh air, exciting new live wire directors are like, oh, you can't sustain this thing, or you're repeating yourself, or you haven't figured out how to stretch outside of your one gimmick or whatever the fuck it is. So I think everyone's like, just add them to the pile of all these wannabes. I mean, listening to Video Archives, it's so interesting. I feel like hearing Tarantino talk with a little bit of perspective on like, it's crazy that I have kept it up. And he's not saying it like that I keep killing it. But he's just like, I just kind of assumed like everyone else that like I was going to go out of favor at some point. It was just all going to come. They were going to come collect and take it away from me, you know? And then you end up being a journeyman director doing TV and whatever.
And look, that's what's happening to Boyle here. And he's like, that's fine. I'm going to retreat, go back underground and, you know, do something radical. And like, that's what's, you know, that's a smart move by him. Yeah. Rather than like, okay, what's a safe Hollywood project I can get myself attached to or something like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's an incredibly savvy move that I think in certain ways even provides a template for other directors over the next 20 years of how to sort of pull their career out of a tailspin.
Yeah, and kind
Yes.
of relatively low budget horror being your escape hatch from like certain
That's
doom.
the thing. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Can you make your limitations an aesthetic?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to shout out the soundtrack a little bit more, just mostly Pure Shores, obviously, which is like the greatest pop song of all time by All Saints. You got Underworld's
Nice song.
8 Ball is a really good number. And then the Moby thing, the way Boyle talks about it is like no one had picked up on him. We put Porcelain on the soundtrack, and by the time the movie was out, like he was,
It was
basically the
huge.
guy in the
Yeah.
commercials. Like, yeah.
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 But he also said that he told Pete Tong, who's a famous UK DJ, about Moby, and Pete Tong returned the favor and told him about Godspeed You, Black Emperor, which is a big band that's used for 28 Days Later. All right. So the movie got bad reviews. It actually made money, not enough maybe, but it still made like 144 worldwide. I don't think anyone lost money on this movie, but it was not a smash hit.
Yeah, and just one of those things where it just, especially because you had 2 years of waiting, any Leo movie was going to be seen as a disappointment, basically.
But it was also probably going to make money. Like,
Yeah.
Yep. So this is Valentine's Day weekend, Griffin. This is February 11th, 2000. The Beach is opening at number 2. It cannot crack number 1.
Do you think there were a lot of like high school Valentine's Day dates
yes.
where the girlfriend drags the boyfriend? He's like, I don't want to see this stupid fucking Leo movie. And then halfway through, she's like furious and he's like, this is kind of cool.
What's going to happen with the weed farmers? Do you think Tilda Swinton is like, ethically non-monogamous, or do you think Bugs doesn't know about what's going on? I'm sure it was released in February to appeal to the youngsters on their dates.
Wild.
And in fact, what's number 1 at the box office is another film that's pitched at youngsters, a horror film.
This
Griffin.
opening at number 2 is crazy.
Not only that it's opening at number 2, but number 1 is not even new. It came out the week before.
Came out the week before. It's not Scream 2, is it?
You're close.
I'm close. Is it
I
Still Know What You Did last
did.
summer?
No, it's Scream 3.
Oh, fuck.
That's how fast the Screams came. Scream 3,
Jesus.
a great film. I will say it. I'm a huge fan of Scream 3.
Wait, so the succession of the Scream movies, what are the years of the Scream movies?
96, 97, and then this is 2000.
Okay, so there's a little bit of a gap. Okay. I just remember
because this is
right.
This is when everyone's like, if I'm going to do another Scream, Quanto dinero por me. Like, come on.
Yes.
But Scream 3, people don't like Scream 3 that much. I think it is an incredible movie, and I think it is 100% Wes Craven's like Burn Hollywood Burn movie about like Harvey Weinstein. I think it's great.
Interesting. Still have never seen any of the Scream sequels. An argument to maybe do them on Patreon.
Right. Emily, what do you think of Scream 3? Or do you not care?
I haven't seen it. I'm the same. I've never seen any Scream other than Scream. It's not my jam at the time, nor now.
Jay and Silent Bob are in Scream 3, right?
Yes.
It is. Like Fisher. 3 is the one that's like the Hollywood satire, right? I don't really know much about her. They're like making a movie.
Yes.
They're making a, yeah.
They're making Stab 2.
Stabbed.
But there's all these scenes that there are all these scenes that are set on the set of essentially Scream. They like recreate the Scream sound stages, and then there are characters playing the act. Like Parker Posey is playing Courtney Cox's character in the movie, and Matt Kessellar is playing Dewey Cox, and is like, "Why are you so stupid?"
It's the original Paul T. Goldman.
Yeah, it rules. It's a great movie. People don't like it. All right, Beach is number 2. Okay. Number 3, Griffin, is a family film that I am sure you saw.
Okay, February.
A kids movie.
2000. Oh, I saw this film multiple times in theaters. Snow Day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah.
What is it called?
It's called Snow Day. in which a bunch of kids get revenge on Chris Elliott, who's a mean snowplow operator. Is that right?
This is a very reductive telling of the story. I mean, it's sort of an Altman-esque narrative. You're following 4 or 5 different threads. It all takes place on the one snow day. Chevy Chase is a disgraced meteorologist, number 2 in the county, who tries to break the big story about the snow day that no one believes is coming. Pam Grier is his boss. Then Jean Smart is his wife, who's stuck at home with the youngest kid, who's the half man from 2.5 Men, trying to do a work conference, an early Zoom meeting. Her coworker is Chili from TLC.
Sure.
And then the younger generation of kids are all trying to defeat Chris Elliott, who's Snowplow Man, the man who threatens to plow all the snow in one day so that school will reopen tomorrow.
This sounds like a really cynical ripoff of the Ice Storm.
Oh, the fucking insane thing about Snow Day. David, do you not know this?
I don't know. You tell me.
I know you don't know this, Emily, because you didn't know this movie existed until this moment. Snow Day was written to be the Pete and Pete movie.
Oh, wow.
Oh, funny.
Oh, that's right.
Huh.
Yes.
Snow Day. So tonally, it's very similar to that. But Snow Day was written as the Pete and Pete movie, and then the show got canceled, and they rewrote it. So the main 2 characters are a younger and older sibling who are the ages of Big Pete and Little Pete, but they turned the younger one into a girl. But the end of the movie, they stop Snowplow Man right before he plows the final street, and Chris Elliott says, What are you going to do? It's too late. I already plowed 95% of the neighborhood. And the one kid goes, then I guess we'll have to do some unplowing. And I have thought about that a lot. The implications of that line.
Unplowing.
Well, Snow Day may opened to basically the same amount of money as The Beach, and it made $20 million more than it at the box office.
Wow.
So there you have it.
And it won Best Picture, too, a year
Right.
later, which is crazy that it lingered in the conversation for that long.
Yes. The other number 4, Griffin, is another children's film. It's an animated film, and it's also new this week, and it also outgrosses The Beach.
Huh.
Not this weekend, but in total.
Is it a Disney movie?
Yes,
Based on a
is, but
TV
not-
show?
No.
No. Is it the Tigger movie?
Sort of. It's the Tigger movie.
Yeah. Okay, we got there.
Oh my God.
I mean, there's a sort of based on a TV show in a way, right? They're kind of based on the Winnie the Pooh show.
This was the run where they started putting the direct-to-video movies in theaters, and half of them were based on the TV shows.
Because isn't that movie like 59 movies long? Or
It's
59 minutes long?
movies long. I think its official running time is 78, but I think it also has some pretty expansive credits.
Yeah, they include
it's a
trailers
short
in the
one.
running time.
I think that movie's trailer had Semi-Charmed Life as the song in it, which is
Yes.
really funny.
Yep.
That
Yep,
is really
absolutely.
funny.
The most recent theatrical Winnie the Pooh movie, I believe, was 61 minutes. And then they
That's
put
what
a
I'm
short
thinking
in front
of.
of
That's
it.
what I'm thinking
Yes.
of. Yeah. God.
That movie's
God
fucking
bless.
good, though.
We should have more 61-minute movies. Jesus.
Yeah.
That's the best thing about that film.
Number 5 at the box office is a holdover from Oscar season.
Okay.
99
99. American Beauty?
biopic.
No. Not The Hurricane.
It is The Hurricane.
Okay, well, shouldn't have outthought myself.
Well, that's the answer.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I know I got it. Okay. Should have believed.
Other films. The
Mhm.
Green Mile, another Oscar holdover.
Mhm.
Next Friday, the first in the Friday sequels, right?
Mhm.
I have seen that one. I have not seen Friday After Next. I have
No,
not
that's
seen
the
that
Christmas one.
Right. Stuart Little, about a little mouse who shreds hard.
Mhm.
Hell yeah.
Shyamalan.
Oh yeah,
written
that's
by
what I
M. Night Shyamalan.
recently looked up. Is that movie was at the top of the box office for Y2K. Stuart Little was the top
Oh, yeah.
grosser
Hell yeah.
that ushered us into the
he
new
was
millennium.
the Millennium Bug.
Yeah, he was literally.
Can we just quickly circle back to Ben quietly saying "hell yeah" to
I
Stuart
loved that.
Little?
No, I
liked
thought that
him.
was good.
He was nice and fun.
I just didn't know you were a fan.
He's small.
He was
He's
small,
he's tiny, little even.
but the world seems big around him.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Something to think about.
You've also
Yeah.
got Galaxy Quest, obviously
A masterpiece.
great film.
Yeah.
And you have the Ewan McGregor starring mystery thriller Eye of the Beholder.
Oh my
with
God,
Ashley
I am the
Judd.
beholder.
David, when I was Marie was ripping me a new one over saying that Ewan McGregor was goofy, handsome. David said, I guess you could say beauty is in the ... eye of the beholder. And then Marie continued ripping into me, and David said, can we circle back and give me some credit for my eye of the beholder joke?
Yeah, that was
I
pretty good.
would not be surprised if even as a strident Ewan defender, Marie forgot about Eye of the Beholder. I wouldn't hold it against her.
I don't think anyone remembers Eye of the Beholder.
No.
Does he
except
play the
for
creep in that one?
David L. Sims. Yes, he's the creep.
Yeah.
He's the serial killer or something.
Okay.
Just back in the day when Ashley Judd had to make 2 of those a year by law, by congressional mandate,
Yeah.
she had to appear in 2 R-rated thrillers about serial killers or something.
And everyone went to see them. They worked. We all liked them.
I mean, a lot of them did work. This was not one of them. This one was
Sure.
a flop.
No.
But usually
Yeah.
her movies made money. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the beach. We made it. We made it to the beach. We
made it to the beach.
we
And this
we
kind of feels like the
frolicked
end
in the
of the
sands.
first act of your
Yeah.
Boyle series. I feel like this marks the end of it. Like
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
No. And then the
Right.
second act is him being like, let me try all kinds of different things. And then almost by mistake winning Best Picture.
Yes.
at
And then
the
the
end of
final
that.
the final act is how do you follow up winning Best
Right.
Picture by accident?
Exactly. Like, wait, how do we recreate the alchemy of that?
Yeah.
But yeah, that is absolutely. He's a 3-act career for sure. And
it's a long third act, though.
well, we'll see.
Yes. It also, I mean, it does feel like we have to be on the precipice of Act 4. It does feel like when
I
he
think
comes
so.
back with a new movie, there's going to be some shift again.
Given how he is, I would imagine he has some self-awareness about like, I need to do something new, like, or drastic. Like,
Yeah.
I can't just keep fucking around. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, the other thing about his third act is like he does a Sorkin script and a Richard Curtis script. You know what I mean? Like he
Right.
took on these scripts by like, and Simon Beaufoy, like these like sort of. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
It will be
Talk
both
about
here.
it will be later. It'll be here and
Yes.
there later.
Yes, on
Here
this
and
on this
here.
very feed. Emily, such a pleasure.
Bless
to have you
up,
back on the
Emily.
show. Bless up, Emily.
Good to
Far
be
too
back.
long.
Good to be back. Thanks for going to the beach with me, you guys.
No problem.
Good to see you, Mama.
I like to think of myself as the Sal of this
Absolutely.
podcast, right?
Yeah.
We have this
Yeah, and
kind
I'm
of healthy
I'm the
dynamic.
cricket guy.
Yeah, and this
What's his
podcast is the beach, and nothing will ever go wrong. It'll
Yeah,
last
right.
forever and be normal.
I saw David's tweet
Um,
where he's like, if it was up to me, the beach would go down totally different. And I'm like,
I did the Wahlberg tweet. If I went to the beach from the beach, it wouldn't have gone down like that.
Which is also at this point almost become the Ben Hosley.
Yeah, right.
The
Ben
only thing is,
now-
I think if I was at the beach, it would still go wrong, unfortunately.
You're right. You couldn't fix this
Yeah, I don't think
No.
you plus the beach would be a good combo.
Definitely not.
one. But any thriller where someone takes the money and it fucks them over, you're convinced it does end with you on a beach.
That's
that you
true. On
own.
an island, a private
Yes.
island
Yes.
that I don't have to share with anyone.
No, you wouldn't fuck it up.
Nope.
Emily, people can watch your breakout turn in Poker Face.
oh, yeah, my first public viewable work in, I don't know, 4 years, 3 years. Yeah, check me out on Poker Face on Peacock. Everybody
Playing
get
a murder
Peacock. It rules.
Podcaster. Yeah, Peacock
Yeah,
is
I'm a
good.
podcaster. It's very meta.
Peacock low key good.
I think Peacock is good. I'm not even paid to say this. I think Peacock is fun. They've got good stuff on there. But anyway, I'm on for about 4 seconds of screen time. But yeah, check it out.
It's a good 4 though. And I saw people on the Reddit excited to see you pop up and then asking why has it been so long? And I hope they're all happy that
Well, this is what I
You-
was
you-
working on the entire time. I was trying to memorize
working
my
on the
lines,
beach
and it was
episode.
really
Yes.
oh well, the beach episode too, but also my
Both.
roll and poker
Yeah.
face. That was just
Yeah.
really long time in the making. It was a little touch and go there. For a second, I might, it looked like it was going to go to Keira Knightley, but yeah, in the end, I got it. So
People
Hope
also don't
everybody's
realize
happy.
you actually recorded like 50 episodes of a murder podcast never to be released, just to have the sort of like the muscle. It was like Ryan Gosling needing
Yeah.
to know how to build the car
Yeah.
and drive. You don't like this bit,
Yeah, we should
David?
wrap. We should wrap.
okay,
Thank you for being here, Emily.
thank
Great
you
to see
for
you.
having
Great to
me.
see you, Emily.
Good to see you too.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Yes.
See you soon.
I mean, come on. Yeah.
Come on, obviously.
Come on.
next
come
time
on.
next time at Foxwoods, we're gonna go have a night sometime.
I would love
At the
to.
craps
Would love
table.
nothing more.
Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to Marie Barty for our social media and helping to produce the show, Joe Bowen, Pat Reynolds for our artwork, Lane Montgomery and the Great American Novel for our theme song, AJ McKeon, Alex Barron for our editing, JJ Birch for our research. You can go to blankcheckpod.com for links to some real nerdy shit, including our Patreon, Blank Check special features where we do commentaries on franchises and other bonus stuff. We're doing 28 weeks later on Patreon, which will be coming out around the same time as 28 days later episode. But I shall also mention, as we're trying to remind people this year, we unlock every Patreon episode after 3 years. So the whole first year of Patreon, the Marvel commentaries, and the New Jersey weekend experience, all now available for free for anyone who wants to go to our Patreon page. We're unlocking new episodes every 10 days, such as The Rise of Skywalker, or The Last Jedi episode where I clogged your toilet. That one I think is now unlocked.
Please. I gotta go.
Tune in next week for 28 Days Later. And as always, I'm not kidding. It is just the timing now. The naked guy has returned. He is once again naked, and the lights are now on in his apartment.
Down, 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 down.
This guy's just flapping
Wow.
around.
And he sees you. He's fully aware of you.
We have not made eye contact, but like my setup is facing the window.
Right.
There is a
Right.
lamp in front of
Right.
my face, illuminating my face. I'm staring
Yeah.
straight ahead. He's now walked off, but he was just fucking flipping and flopping
He's never
around.
gonna meet you. Why does he give a fuck?